such a big part of the community, and being able to have the massive events that you do here just really raises the bar in sports, right? It gives kids the opportunity to see the highest level and to dream.
He says one of his favorite parts about visiting Utah was touring the Huntsman Mental Health Care Center. Phelps has been open about his struggles with depression and says there needs to be more work toward removing stigma around athlete mental health struggles. A BYU student chosen for a role in a nationwide conservative group is receiving some major backlash for anti-Semitic comments. KSL News Radio's Cameron Elliott has the story.
The appointment of 23-year-old Kai Schwemmer to a top position at the College Republicans of America has raised some eyebrows due to some of Schwemmer's comments on his podcast. The comments came as he revealed a genealogy test he had taken, with the point stressed that he was 0% Jewish. This, along with a few other controversial comments, is underscored by his association with podcaster Nick Fuentes. Fuentes is widely known as a white supremacist who is known for his consistent racial and religious discrimination. In a statement, Schwemmer said he condemns any sort of discrimination and distanced himself from Fuentes. Cameron Elliott, KSL News Radio.
Your money at this moment. Let's see where the Dow is right now. We're down 115 points. That's 0.25%. We're at 47,794. Coming up, we've got some rain on the horizon. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:02. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
If you're ready to sell your home, check your home's current value, buy a home, or need a home services professional in the Salt Lake City area, you can find all that and more on the free Omada Real Estate app. The real estate experts at the Stern team, powered by Omada Real Estate, have over 1,700 five-star reviews and have helped thousands of families turn their real estate dreams into a reality. With their proven marketing strategies, the Stern team, powered by Omada Real Estate, can get your home sold stress-free and for the most money possible. Go to sternteam.com or Google the Stern team.
If you don't care about saving 50% off your wireless bill for the same 5G coverage the big guys are charging a fortune for, maybe you care about keeping jobs in America. Pure Talk does. They've pledged to run their entire operation from this country, including all their customer service. Or maybe you care about our nation's veterans. Pure Talk does. They've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to America's Warrior Partnership, a fantastic organization working hard to prevent veteran suicide. Or maybe you care about closing America's skills gap. Pure Talk does. They're a proud supporter of MicroWorks. They're helping my foundation train the next generation of skilled workers. Don't get me wrong. Saving money's great, and you'll save plenty with Pure Talk. But if you want to be in business with people who share your values, dial pound 250, say micro, and switch to an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
I'm Congressman Mike Kennedy. For years, Utah families have paid too much for health care, groceries, and everyday essentials. I'm fighting for health care reform that puts patients first and lowers costs. I'm also working to cut waste, fraud, and abuse in Washington because your tax dollars should be spent wisely. Fiscal responsibility means lower costs and a government that works for you. I'm Mike Kennedy, and I'll keep fighting for Utah families. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does it feel like someone stabbing a knife into your heel? Or does your lower back give you problems as the day goes on? The Good Feet store wants to help you like we helped Ann.
Every time I stood up, pain just shot up my legs. Fortunately, I found the Good Feet store. I went to them after my doctor diagnosed me with plantar fasciitis. And now, thanks to the Good Feet store, I'm 100%.
Wouldn't it be nice to get back to doing what you love, like Patrick did?
I was in constant pain. Somehow my fiance and I found our way into the Good Feet store. Put my foot on the arch support system. I put them in my shoes, my back, my knees, my ankles. Thank you. Thank you, everybody at the Good Feet store. You gave me my active life back.
Learn more or schedule an appointment at goodfeet.com and come in and get your free personalized fitting at the Good Feet store. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. And here's Cormac Bone.
Just a little bit of northbound I-15 slowdowns left over from the morning drive at 4500 South in Murray, although those have really eased out in the last minute here. They might be gone. We also have some new slowdowns, though. Northbound SR36 in Lake Point. Looks like there might be something blocking a left lane on northbound SR36 just after Canyon Road, letting those construction delays reach longer into the morning than they usually do. And 2100 north in Lehigh, of course, still seeing those eastbound delays approaching 2300 west. When you need the financial products and services for every stage of life, Cyprus Credit Union is there for whatever the future holds. Visit cypruscu.com today. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
This week we'll see a high of 77 on Friday before we drop 20 degrees to Monday's 55 for a high. Good chance of rain Sunday and Monday. Right now it is 55 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
There was apparently another death because of domestic violence, but this one stood out to me because it is a woman who has been accused of killing her boyfriend in Ogden.
Yeah, 51-year-old Terry Lynn Morgan has been charged with murder in connection with a homicide of her husband, which is alleged to have occurred on the 7th, just 2 days ago. She was charged this morning and apparently even had her court appearance this morning at 8 o'clock. I haven't got the updates on that yet, but it would have been her first appearance where she would have just answered to the charges. But she's been charged, Holly, with first-degree murder, not a death penalty case, not an aggravated murder, but it's still a very serious crime that carries up to a life sentence.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what happened, what police are saying occurred in the home?
Yeah, so what they're saying is that on the 7th, 2 days ago, at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, South Ogden police officers responded to a residence at 41st South and 850 West and on a reported cardiac arrest. So they get a call that someone was having a heart attack. They get there, and she stated to them that her boyfriend had fallen on his head. He was unconscious. They started looking around. She became uncooperative. She refused to help out. They got to the scene. Medical people came. The deceased was unresponsive. And they couldn't get him back to life. He had a long gash on the top of his head, and as they started looking around, they noticed that the house was a real mess. I mean, there was a hole in the wall, there was broken glass on the living room couch. There were just a lot of things going on. She actually had a blood-soaked towel near her. The suspect did. Blood smeared on her face, hands, and legs, and she had a visible injury to her head as well. They started looking at things, and he was pronounced dead at the scene from a head injury. It wasn't a heart attack at all. She did give a statement after Miranda, and I'm just looking at the police probable cause statement that stated that she said that this was due to a fight. They were fighting. She became upset because of his alcoholism, and she struck him in the head with a bottle. This is a weird sort of connection with this case, because what she said was they'd had fights before and they'd call the police, but this time she thought he was okay, and he refused medical attention, according to her. He's hurt, he's bleeding, and she says, "Are you okay?" He says, "Yeah, should I call an ambulance?" No. And of course, that was the wrong call. He later passed away.
Well, my first question is that true?
Who knows? I mean, the police decide, even if it is, I mean, if she caused the injury,
right,
whether or not he...
Didn't she go take a nap?
Right, yes.
I think that's what the news story said. She went and took a nap.
Whether she recognized all of the symptoms, yeah, she was tired after all this took place. They had this fight. They were sort of cleaning things up, with towels and blood gashing, and she said it wore her out. So she took an hour-long nap, and when she came back, he was unresponsive. So, yeah, they called 911, but by then it was too late. She's being held on murder charges, which means, well, it doesn't always mean, but in this particular case, they're holding her with no bail. She did have a court appearance this morning at 8. They haven't updated the docket yet, so I don't know what happened, but I'm sure what happened was she wouldn't have entered a plea yet, but she would have been appointed a public defender probably. They would have scheduled court dates down the road, and they would have addressed bail, which in this case probably she's not likely to get it.
So KSL was able to speak to some of the neighbors, and they told KSL that they often heard yelling from the home.
I would dial 911 and I would say, I think there is a domestic violence situation happening in my neighbor's house. I fear for somebody's safety. Could you please send a patrol car out? We don't want anybody to go in and knock on a door if they think something violent is occurring there. It is unsafe.
That was YCC Family Crisis Center's Amber Paso explaining what to do if you're concerned about domestic violence in your neighborhood. And
don't knock on the door necessarily.
Yeah, that's right, because you hear sometimes screaming and yelling. These are, as we know, the most dangerous call that a police officer will respond to is a domestic violence call. And so even they are reluctant. And if you watch police officers responding to a home on a domestic violence, they'll knock on the door and then stand away in case somebody's shooting through the door. I mean, literally, it's that frightening for them. Of course, they're usually wearing vests, but it's really a frightening situation for law enforcement. And in this case, it didn't appear that a firearm was used, but the dangerous weapon was whatever she hit him
a bottle
with the head.
Yeah, so I think it is interesting, right, that you heard that the neighbor felt like she would call, and we heard from YCC Family Crisis Center's Amber. I think it's Paso. Right. She also explained if you maybe feel regret about knowing whether it's domestic violence or not.
It is really very hard to recognize domestic violence oftentimes. We expect to see bruises or some sort of physical sign, and most domestic violence cannot be seen. We don't see those marks because a lot of them are internal. So often close friends and family members don't know that domestic violence is happening. So there shouldn't be regret. It's hard to see. But what we can do is educate ourselves, find out the signs, find out what the resources are around us, like YCC, to then be able to provide that to somebody who we feel might be unsafe.
And law enforcement, Holly, is being trained a lot more to look for signs other than what would be obviously visible, like a blood or broken nose or a black eye or something like that. Because if you think about it, one form of domestic violence that's pretty prevalent is strangulation, which doesn't always leave real readily available marks.
You know, it's also interesting, too, because in this case, it appears, at least right now, that the victim was a man. I don't know anything about whether there was mutual impacts, right? And we've heard of recent court cases where both are accusing the other party of domestic violence. But in this case, the person who died was the male in the relationship, and it was the female who is being accused now of murder. So I wonder, too, if that's sometimes a hesitation, right? I also know that at least in some cases of domestic violence, the abuser can be, quote unquote, careful to hide, to keep things hidden, right? And then the person who is abused also tries to keep things hidden. I do want to mention this, though, for if any of our listeners have anybody that if they themselves are going through abuse or somebody you know, there is help available. The Utah Domestic Violence Coalition operates a confidential statewide 24-hour domestic abuse hotline. It's 1-800-897-LINK, which is 5465. And there's also resources available at the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition website.
Yeah, and those are very, very important websites to know. I've worked with the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition. I still do some work with them. Yeah, 1-800-897-LINK, LINK, if you have any information about domestic violence. And again, like you said a minute ago, don't approach the house. Don't go there by yourself. Just call 911 or the hotline.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know if you remember the story or not, but Desiree Turner was shot in the back of the head and left for dead in 2017. She ended up dying of complications from that attack, but it was 8 years later. Next month, a new Utah law is going to go into effect that changes how prosecutors can charge suspects in violent crimes when the victims later die from their injuries. We're going to break it down when we come back.
Andy, I like that shirt. Is that a new shirt?
It is. It's from Ann Collar, and it's really rare to find a shirt that looks good and is super comfortable. And this is a fabric unlike anything I've ever felt.
I got one for my husband and my sons, and watching my 19-year-old put on the Ann Collar shirt and sort of check himself out in the mirror, I thought, wow, he's really digging that. And I can understand why, because it's not just comfortable, it's stain repellent, which I needed.
Oh, my goodness.
Because,
Something.
He attracts spaghetti sauce to shirts like you would not believe. And with these Ann Collar shirts, I can get it out.
Amanda, I have to wear a special bib when I eat spaghetti with a white shirt on. But with Ann Collar shirts, it takes those little tiny nicks and stains, and they don't stick to you. Yeah, you don't have to dump a bucket of stuff on you, but it would repel that too.
You've got to try one. So whether it's the traditional white shirt or any of the patterns they have, it's Ann Collar, and they're made right here in Utah.
If you've never tried Ann Collar before, we have got permission to give you 15% off at andcollar.com and go get your first. Use the code KSL15.
That's Ann Collar, ANDcollar.com.
Hi, I'm Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox. When the IRS invades your life, it's never good news. Keep in mind, it's not just you.
I owed roughly $34,000.
$61,000. When the IRS first contacted me, I was horrified.
When they start hounding you and harassing you and assaulting you.
Don't face the IRS alone. With everything in your life at stake, don't trust just anyone.
From what I got told was being done in a matter of 2 years, he had done in a matter of like 48 hours.
It's a great thing to have the IRS off your back.
We have reduced our tax liability by over $42,000.
Once I signed on with Jordan, I never talked to the IRS again.
It changed our lives.
You need someone to fight for you. Visit endtaxworry.com and get relief today. Let's solve your tax problems now. Visit endtaxworry.com. That's endtaxworry.com.
You may not think about Great Salt Lake, but it's affecting your life every day. It brings lake effect snow and epic powder days. It supports thousands of jobs that keep Utah thriving. It provides a haven for millions of birds. And it keeps our air cleaner and our summers cooler. It also could affect your home's value, your kids' asthma, your morning run, your powder days, your future. Without a healthy lake, we face toxic dust storms full of mercury and arsenic, along with higher health costs, fewer jobs, and lower home values. This isn't just an environmental issue, it's personal. The lake affects you. Now, it's your turn to affect the lake, because our lives depend on our lake. Act now at growgsl.org.
You could file your taxes on a basic free service, which is fine. But are you okay with fine? Because when it's your money on the line, do you really want to guess if you missed a credit or hope the math is right? Get the confidence of TurboTax for free right on the Intuit Credit Karma app. Free Fed and free state for simple 1040s only. Around 37% of filers qualify. See details at turbotax.com/free. No schedules except for EITC, CTC, student loan interest, and Schedule 1A.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit info kit. 800-290-7100. That's 800-290-7100.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
Really ugly clouds coming over from the north.
A place
The ridgeline is imposing the escarpments, the drops.
where survival
It's dark now. I have nothing.
is never certain.
This is not good.
My name's Dave Cawley, and I'm the host of a podcast called Uinta Triangle. It's about the disappearance of an Australian hiker named Eric.
Our conclusion and that of the sheriff is that the mountains have decided to keep him.
Come retrace Eric's footprints with me.
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
He is not the first or last person to vanish in this remote region.
It was haunting to see the photos. I mean, really.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle. That's Uinta, spelled U-I-N-T-A, Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes out now.
Right now, water heaters are on sale at Any Hour Services. Schedule a free estimate today to see how much you'll save. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Inside Sources.
When Desiree was shot in 2017, she was only 17 years old, and there were teenagers. I don't even remember why they decided to shoot her and leave her for dead in a canal. But she survived, and over the next 8 years, Desiree Turner was able to serve an LDS mission. She got married, but a year ago, almost to the day, she passed away, but it was from complications from that original gunshot wound. And so there's a new Utah law that goes into effect in May that would allow, if I am understanding this right, Greg, it would allow attempted murder charges to be elevated to murder if, in fact, the victim later dies. So help me understand that.
Yeah, so it is an interesting law, and it's called Desiree's Law, and it intended to go into effect. It was just passed by the legislature, but it will go into effect on May 6th of this year, in part because of this case. Just to give you a little bit background of the case, however, here's more from KSL TV's Dan Rascone.
I love you. A tender scene 1 year ago. Young Des Turner living her final days with her husband by her side. For her sisters,
Des isn't going to be there to be part of my baby's future.
Emotions still running high as they think about life without her.
My graduation, she won't get to be there for my wedding.
It was February 2017 in this canal where Des was shot in the back of the head and left for dead. She spent 63 days in the hospital. When she left, she coined the phrase tougher than a bullet.
She inspired so many people, and she filled our lives with love, light, and laughter.
But after 8 years of fighting, her body was done.
I'm not scared of what's going to happen next. I know where I'm going, and I'm ready to get there.
The boys who shot Des were sentenced 15 years to life for attempted murder. But come next month, Senate Bill 92, a new state law, will change that to murder for future victims who die from their injuries.
Des, she got the life sentence.
For Des's sisters, that's justice.
Future victims can have some sort of justice and relief that, the state is looking out for them.
When I interviewed Des a year ago, she died 9 days later. Her family now planning a little memorial or get-together to be able to remember the life and legacy that she's left behind.
Yeah, this was a really sad and tragic case. So when she was shot, the two individuals that were involved in that pled guilty to attempted murder, and they went to prison for a term of 15 years to life. Now, that was for an attempted murder. And so the question becomes, and this is a really complicated legal question, if at the time they plead guilty, there was a particular crime they pled to, attempted murder, because she was still alive.
Right.
Then years later she dies
right.
as a result of that shooting.
Right.
So that
But after the court case has already gone through.
After they've already pled guilty. So the legislature has attempted in this law, and I have some real concerns about it, and I with all respect to Desiree and what happened here, it was unforgivably cruel what happened to her. But the law, to me, has a couple of problems, and I would just say twofold. One, it may not be applied retroactively. I don't think there's a chance that they could go and say, we call it ex post facto law. You can't just pass a law to address something that occurred in the past. We attempt to do that once in a while. You can pass a law in terms of what happened in the past, so that if it happens in the future, somebody can be charged, and that's what they did here. So that's one problem with it as it relates to these particular boys. The second problem is what we call jeopardy or double jeopardy. They've already admitted guilt to this exact offense. So that's the problem that I have with this law, is that it says you can have a subsequent prosecution if, in fact, the person ends up dying. And so let me digress a little bit, because I was a prosecutor for 8 years. When we would have a shooting like this, and a victim was in critical or looked like she may or may not die, we wouldn't charge the individuals, because you would want to wait and see what happened. You can maybe hold them in jail on a suspected attempted murder or something, but you wouldn't want them to plead guilty, because once a person pleads guilty, jeopardy attaches.
Right.
And then,
but then 8 years is a long time.
Right. Yeah. You couldn't possibly hold him for 8 years. So I think the state handled it correctly. They entered a plea. They went to prison. Even 15 to life was not exactly a low sentence.
Right.
And the new crime, the murder, would now be a 25 to life. It's significantly different. But with a life top, the Board of Pardons could probably choose now to keep them for the rest of their life anyway. So I do have some problems with this law, and I talked to a representative from the Utah Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers who said they really had some concern about it when it was being passed and considered by the legislature. I think it was Chris Wilson's case.
Yeah, it was Senator Chris Wilson who was the original sponsor, and then the floor sponsor was Representative Casey Snyder. So I will tell you, because they're both in leadership, this was a bill that was going to pass.
Yeah.
So I had very similar questions actually with the double jeopardy part, because I'm reading the law as it passed, and while it's clear that it's not going to impact Desiree's case specifically, for any future one, and it's limited to homicide.
Yes.
But how? I guess, is it somehow removing the statute of limitations? I don't understand as a non-lawyer how you can apply this without getting into the double jeopardy.
Right. So let me talk to your first question. Statute of limitations. There's a statute of limitations on everything except homicide. So a murder charge does not have a statute of limitations, and sex crimes involving children do no longer have statutes of limitations. So that question is out. They can charge these boys any time with a murder. The more important question is, they already did charge them with the act of shooting her. They already pled guilty to that act, and they charged it as an attempted homicide. To me, that's a King's X. The state chose its charges. They did what was right at the time under the circumstances, and the kids pled guilty. I call them boys. They're certainly adults.
They're adults now.
But they faced the music, and they entered pleas to that charge. It was an attempted homicide. So, yeah, I just don't see how you can go back and revisit that. This law would absolutely allow you to do that, and it makes it sound like that, and it's limited to homicides, and it's limited to very factually cases very similar to this. That is, that at the time of the plea, the person hadn't died, and now they die later on. I mean, the law was, it's called Desiree's laws for a reason, because it's enacted for this very condition, which happens periodically. But the problem with this, again, I guess I'll put my defense attorney hat on instead of the prosecutor hat. You would have to show and have medical testimony that, in fact, the shooting was the cause of the death. Now, that's probably not too hard in a case like this, but were there intervening situations, intervening causes, intervening things that happened? I mean, you'd have to have a medical examiner to come in and say, she died on this day in 2025 as a result of a shooting that occurred in 2017. That's going to be a hard one for a doctor to overcome.
I don't know, because it reminds me of the Ronald Reagan case. We just talked about it recently, and it was was it Jim Brady, but the Brady law.
Yes.
When he actually died, so he was the security guard that was shot in the head, and he was severely injured, but he didn't die for quite some time. And when he finally did, his death was ruled a homicide, even though it was years after the fact.
Right.
So that reminds me of that situation. Then. You know, the charges were different because...
Right, we got the Brady bill as a result of that, and it required people to go through a certain background check when they purchased a gun. You're right, but that didn't necessarily mean that the individual that shot him could then be prosecuted unless he hadn't been prosecuted.
Well, he'd already... he was found not able to stand trial by reasons of insanity.
Yeah. Exactly right. So, yeah, that's another perfect example. And it happens once in a while where you have some traumatic event. It's not usual that people are as strong and resilient as Desiree.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, she made the most of a horrible situation. I mean, what a hero. And it's an honor to her that this law was passed in her honor.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for breaking it down, and we'll see how that plays out as we move forward.
Right. Well, we talked about a ceasefire yesterday, which is in place between Iran and the United States, but it hasn't stopped Iran from intensifying their cyber attacks at U.S. infrastructure. We'll talk about with a national terrorism expert when we come back.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour. The husband of a Michigan woman who went missing after reportedly falling off a boat in the Bahamas has now been taken into custody. ABC's Hannah Patan.
Police say they're now questioning 59-year-old Brian Hooker after announcing a criminal investigation. His attorney not elaborating on the case, only saying that Hooker categorically denies the allegations made against him. Hours before his arrest, Hooker released a statement saying, "I am heartbroken over the recent boat accident that caused my beloved Lynette to fall from our small dinghy," adding he made desperate attempts to reach her, and the ongoing search for her is my sole focus.
New threats to the Iranian ceasefire. Iran apparently closing the Strait of Hormuz again over Israel's targeting of its proxy group in Lebanon. ABC News chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is in Tel Aviv and explains.
These were the most significant Israeli attacks on Lebanon since it resumed attacking after the war with Iran began. Hezbollah, which is the Iranian-backed proxy group inside Lebanon, had launched attacks towards Israel, and Israel responded, increasing the amount of bombing against what it says are Hezbollah targets. But the Lebanese authorities are reporting a significant number of civilian casualties there.
Ian Pannell reporting on ABC's Start Here podcast. Your money at this moment. The Dow is down 59 points at this hour. That's 0.1%. We're at 47,850. Coming up, a hot weekend before a wet week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
It was opening night at Hale Center Theater for The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Victor Hugo's classic tale. I was with my son, Ian, and it was nothing short of spectacular. The staging, the costuming, the music, it's simply breathtaking. And, of course, the actors and the voices. You have to see The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's on the main stage right now at Hale Center Theater. So many of the scenes are never to be forgotten. For example, when Frollo is just struggling with his passion for Esmeralda and his soul, the flames and the tension on the stage is unbelievable. And to see the Hunchback up in the tower with the bells, don't miss Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's underway right now at Hale Center Theater. And continuing, Peter Pan Goes Wrong. That's on the Jewel Box stage, and Hallmarked on the Beehive stage. Get your tickets now. hct.org. Don't miss the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Taxes was waiting on the refund you needed yesterday.
All right, your car repair is going to run about $3,000.
Ugh. Now Taxes is getting back on the road with TurboTax and Credit Karma, where you can get your refund up to 5 days faster and get personalized guidance to take every dollar further. Now this is Taxes. Intuit Credit Karma with TurboTax. Deposit a federal refund into Credit Karma Money account and early submission of refund data by IRS required. Terms apply. Banking services provided by MVB Bank, Inc. Member FDIC. Credit Karma is not a bank.
The weather is about to warm up. That means lawn care. Wouldn't you love a greener, healthier lawn without the hassle? Utah's tough climate doesn't make it easy, but J&J Garden Center has the answer to make it simple. So simple, you can do it yourself. The 5-step lawn care program at J&J Garden Center with Basin's Best Fertilizer is designed just for Utah's unique climate, giving you a thicker, stronger, weed-free lawn all season long. It's easy to apply, affordable, and covers up to 10,000 square feet. Just follow the simple 5-step plan and let Basin's Best Fertilizer do the rest and take the guesswork out of your lawn care. DIY and save big. No expensive lawn services needed. Get started today at J&J Garden Center and watch your lawn turn green with envy. Visit J&J Garden Center in Layton and get growing today. Just take the Layton Parkway exit to Main Street and head west on Gentile. J&J Garden Center. Country grown to your home.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at UCCU. And back to you, Cormac.
No major delays on any of our main freeways, I-15 and I-80, I-215, all driving without accident or delay. Where we do have delays is northbound SR-36 in Lake Point, especially just after Canyon Road. Looking on the live shot, it's not zoomed in enough, but they are seemingly blocking a left lane. UDOT not reporting a crash, so it may just be construction causing some additional lane restrictions. And so it's heavy and slow there, especially later than we usually see it. In Lehigh, also normal construction delays, eastbound Pioneer Crossing and 2100 North, scattered delays from Redwood Road over to I-15. First-time home buyer, you could get $20,000 toward your down payment and closing costs on a brand new home. Call 801-809-SAVE, loansbyrick.com, NMLS 241179, Equal Housing Lender. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Highs today around 75, 77 tomorrow, 70 on Saturday ahead of this storm system coming in. That'll bring some rain to us Sunday and Monday and drop temperatures down to 55 for a high on Monday. That's our temperature right now, 55 downtown. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, there may be a ceasefire in effect, although it's on shaky grounds, but there are also concerns that we hadn't really considered, and I guess the devil's always in the details. We talked about that yesterday.
Hadn't considered,
right,
but there are others who certainly do.
Yes, U.S. intelligence agencies are warning private sector companies that there could be cyber criminals from Iran conducting operations critical to U.S. infrastructure. That includes drinking water, wastewater, and the Trump administration has said we may be doing the same thing. So the ceasefire does not involve a
cyber attacks.
Right, cyber attacks, which it just you don't even think about stuff like that.
Okay, well, to help us learn more, we have Brad Garrett with us. He's ABC News crime and terrorism analyst in Washington. And thanks for joining us, Brad.
You're welcome.
Talking about water and power attacks, what is the risk here? It sounds very concerning.
Well, I think the risk is reasonable. I think it depends on two things: how determined Iran is to attack certain infrastructure in the U.S., and B, how good is the cybersecurity at that particular agency, company, location, etc. I mean, if you think about the vastness of infrastructure in this country, like every city, like your city, you have a water system, an electric system, a gas system, other utilities that keep the city running. The stoplights and walkways are all controlled with computers. If you think about the ability of Iran to get into any of those systems, and I think the biggest concern wouldn't be that, let's say, hypothetically, that they targeted your city. They may not have a reason to, shut down your water system. But if they can get into the computer system that controls the water system, they can plant what they call malicious malware. And some of this is so good, it's not detectable. And so it just may lay dormant in a system. It's been beliefs, and maybe the federal government knows the answer to this, but there's certainly been beliefs that Russia and China have done some version of this in certain locations. I don't know if that's true or not, but I use that as an example, where a dormant malware you can activate at some point. And so if they decided to damage, shut down, pollute, whatever the right term would be to this hypothetical water system, they could do it. But you're just talking about an immense number of systems, an immense number of various great but not so great levels of cybersecurity. So you can see how clearly the possibility is there for them to do bad things.
We often think about the sophistication of Russia and China, as you mentioned, Brad, and the fact that they have been known to cyber attack the United States in various capacities. What kind of capabilities do we know that Iran has?
Very good. They have spent a lot of time and money on their cyber, what I'm going to call cyber criminals ability. And you're never to be underestimated. But if you think about at least those three countries in particular, you can add some others. I mean, literally, this country gets bombarded every day with thousands of attempted attacks, many of them very poor. They're shut off immediately. But there's going to be a handful of those thousands that will be quite good. And will it be able to get into a system, which can be done various ways. You've heard, I'm sure, multiple times the idea that, let's say in ABC utility company, they approach some employee with a bogus email and a bogus attachment, and they can sometimes then get into that utility system through this employee's, unbeknownst to the employee's account. So it's things like that. That's why there's so much education with companies about not clicking on attachments to emails, text messages, etc.
So, Brad, my understanding is the current director of national intelligence also eliminated the Cyber Threat Intelligence Integration Center, which doesn't make sense to me. But are we at greater risk here because that center doesn't even exist anymore?
Well, hard to say. I mean, clearly you would want them versus not want them. The people that are experts in this world that I talk to say it was first of all, stupid, but it was a big deal to get rid of it. Keep in mind that there's a whole cybersecurity infrastructure apparatus inside DHS, and the FBI have an entire division dedicated to cyber stuff. So it's the two of them that tend to send out notices, of which they did recently, letting people know that, that Iran is upping their game in effect in recent times. And I assume some of that is clearly driven by the war. It may be driven by comments President Trump had made about annihilating Iran. You can see how that would fire people up.
Yeah. We're speaking with Brad Garrett, ABC News crime and terrorism analyst. And Brad, if the people in Iran are having a show like this today, are they having the same conversations about the threat of American cyber attacks on Iranian infrastructure?
Probably. I think they're also concerned just about physical attacks, since they've been threatened but stopped at this point. So, I mean, obviously the population of Iran, the everyday folks, live under this constant fear, right, of both being a possibility. They've already had their day-to-day life in some jurisdictions, locations adversely affected, clearly, by the war. So, it would be a very stressful place to live at this point.
So, Brad, are there steps that we can take in the United States to better protect our infrastructure, and maybe not the nitty-gritty details, but at least from, a 5,000-foot view?
The answer is yes, but with the caveat that the ability to develop more and more sophisticated malicious malware and other intrusive techniques goes on every day. The Russians are studying it. They have research on it. The Chinese, Iran has, and as well as some other countries. So yes, you can up your game via cybersecurity, whether that's in-house. Some companies and agencies have private companies. That's all they do is provide cybersecurity to up the game, their security game. But there's always that. What's coming next? This is like a cat and mouse 24/7 kind of game that literally none of us see. I mean, obviously, if somebody blows something up, shoots somebody, whatever it might be, it's tangible. It's in front of us. But when this is done online, you don't even know this happened. And it may or may not affect your everyday life.
Brad, we've only got less than a minute left, but where do you suppose, from what you know as a terrorism analyst, the United States is the most vulnerable? Is it water, power?
Please tell us online. Over the air.
Well, I don't think it's any surprise that it's all because of the very nature of power and utilities. I mean, each city has water jurisdiction. They have electric, they have gas, they have other utilities that are controlled by either government agencies and or private entities. each one of those potentially could be hacked. And so that's why I said earlier is that it's a very difficult thing to get your arms around how well, for example, in your city is the cybersecurity system that, utility A to utility B to utility C. I mean, those are questions clearly people can ask, and I suspect have asked. But I guess one of the caveats is the following, that these rogue countries adversaries may be hesitant to do what I just described because we can clearly do that to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's a road that I don't think anybody probably wants to go down.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for that. That was Brad Garrett, ABC News crime and terrorism analyst. And when we come back, look, Greg, I don't know if you've ever sat in your parked car to decompress. Well, I have, and I thought I was the only one. It turns out that I'm not. And we're going to talk about the rise of emotional resetting in your car when we come back.
Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Ready to get rid of that old car? Donate it to Cars for Kids. Call 877 Cars for Kids to speak to a friendly live agent. Donation is super easy, and your car can be picked up as soon as tomorrow. Go to carsforkids.org now or call 877 Cars for Kids to donate your car today.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids.
Did you know you can donate real estate too? Go to carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word INBOX to 57500. That's INBOX to 57500.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 354, is looking for telecommunication technicians and fiber splicers to fill immediate job openings. Technicians work with network cabling and fiber optics to build communication networks and infrastructure. Come to our job fair on Thursday, April 9th and 23rd from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Utah Electrical Training Alliance in West Jordan, 7466 South Redwood Road. The IBEW is offering an amazing job opportunity. Enjoy a competitive wage, paid holidays, and employer-paid health care and retirements. Learn more at our job fair on Thursday, April 9th and 23rd from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Utah Electrical Training Alliance in West Jordan, 7466 South Redwood Road. Meet the contractors and tour the training center. Do you want to become a telecom technician? Apply for the 3-year telecom apprenticeship. Get paid while you learn. Invest in yourself. Join the IBEW. Learn more at IBEW354.org.
Bad driving habits are hard to break, but good driving habits are easy to form, especially when they can lead to a discount on your auto insurance. With Farm Bureau Financial Services, the safer you drive, the more you save. Drivers like you are saving an average of $321 per vehicle. So buckle up, learn more, and find an agent at fbfs.com/save. Individual savings results may vary. Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company, Western Agricultural Insurance Company.
Let me ask you a question. You have a best friend? How big would it shock you if somebody told you that your best friend just killed somebody?
911, what's your emergency? Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son, and they're demanding $500,000.
I've asked myself so many times, what in the world happened?
Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com. or wherever you get your podcasts.
Gold demand is skyrocketing to record highs. As more Americans rush to preserve their savings, will there be enough gold? I'm Dr. Ron Paul, and I believe physical gold is the only way to truly protect your 401k or IRA savings. Gold offers tangible security that can't be tracked, stolen, or inflated. That's why I strongly advocate for gold IRAs. To learn more, text the word SECURE to 989898 now. Birch Gold Group will send you a free info kit on gold IRAs. Birch Gold is the only gold company I trust, and their thousands of great reviews prove I'm not alone. So don't wait another second. Protect your retirement savings today and see how easy it is to move your IRA or 401k into physical precious metals. Text SECURE to the number 989898 for your free gold IRA info kit. Again, SECURE to 989898.
Message and data rates may apply.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Okay, I confess, it bugs me just a little bit when my wife comes home. She's been driving home from work, and she sits in the car in the garage in her car, and I don't know what she's doing. She's on her phone. She's texting. I don't know. Apparently, this is not such a bad idea. And now I'm hearing that my co-host does the same thing.
I do.
What's
do
up with
the
that,
same
Holly?
thing. I don't know.
Get in the house.
I don't know. It's weird. I thought I was the only one, and it's not like I didn't consciously think about it. But now that I've seen this article, so it's an article that has been republished on KSLNewsRadio.com, originating from the Associated Press. But my daughter does it. And she will sit out there for a long time. Sometimes she even makes TikTok videos of her sitting in her car while she's sitting in her car. Turns out that's not uncommon either. And then I had to think about it more. I have a son who does it too. He comes home and they'll, like the two kids, they're adults, but they'll leave their music on and they stay in the car, and it's not like it's super chaotic in the house anymore. So it's a really interesting thing, and I do it.
I guess my commute's long enough that when I get home, I just want to get out of the car. But I can also understand the concept of decompression before you go into the house and the dog's jumping up on you and whatever's going on. Maybe just have a few minutes of downtime by yourself when you're not driving and facing traffic. I don't do it myself, with one exception. There's like an incredible song on, and it's almost
and
like
you gotta finish.
I'll finish the song. You gotta hear that guitar solo at the end. Other than that, I'm getting in the house.
It's super interesting. So I'm looking at this article, and it's saying if you scroll through TikTok, you're going to see a lot of videos of people wondering why they're doing the same thing. They arrive at work or home, the gym, and then they just sit in their car. Some of them actually get there early on purpose so that they can stay in their car before they have to get out of the car. I mean, I like my car, but
I'll tell you, it is a safer place to sit and read your tech. I mean, your phone's vibrating while you're driving. You have this urge to maybe sit and look at who's texting you or who's called you or whatever. Maybe that sort of decompression time, you can sort of just look at your phone and say, oh, this person called.
It's safer than doing it while you're driving.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Do not
for
do it
sure.
while you're driving, right.
So I thought this line was funny, and I know that you did as well, but this is a clinical psychologist in it, and she says, a lot of times we're just going 100 miles an hour, and then I have to add, not literally.
Right. I saw that too. I'm like, whoa, wait.
Yeah, but she says if we can stop, slow down, take a step back, proceed mindfully, like you can do a reset, an emotional reset. And look, I've heard things about people before who they want to leave their work troubles at work, and so they'll take a minute outside the house, and they had a worry tree, and they'll touch the tree, and it leaves all the worries behind. I don't know if that's the modern day version. We're sitting in our cars decompressing while we're on our phones, which is interesting.
Okay, so I'm looking at this article, and it says maybe it's just a few minutes, fine, or half an hour, maybe not so much. I mean, don't sit in the car for half an hour. To me, that would just bug me. And sometimes I'll even go out and look at my wife, hello.
Yeah.
But she's focused on whatever she's doing. And sometimes just to finish a phone call or just to finish a thought or just.
Yeah, sure.
And it really is. I hadn't appreciated this until I read this article and talked to you. It is a decompression time between the chaotic commute and what we have to do next once we enter the house.
It can be a decompression time, right? Because they also point out that if you're in your car and you're doom scrolling or you're thinking about something that's upsetting to you, you're ruminating, you're spiraling, then sitting in the car is not a reset, it's a stressor, right? So you can be purposeful in sitting in your car.
Right. And so they do say, take it with a grain of salt. And it's a good idea to do it for a few minutes, but don't let it get to the point where you're just spending a lot of time out in your car, because everybody's going to wonder what's going on. And I wouldn't think doing it on your way to work. To me, it's one of those on your way home things.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't do it coming to KSL in the morning. I don't know whether it just seems like I can come in here and do what I need to do. I don't decompress. Well, I don't do it ever. Like I say, unless there's some, thing on a podcast I'm listening to, or a story or a song or something. But for me, decompression is not in a car.
So again, I think it could be useful. I think it can be, especially if you're deliberate about it. I've never been deliberate about it. I mean, sometimes, like, I'll get home and I get up really early in the morning. So by the time I get home, sometimes I want a nap. And sometimes it's harder to get out of the car than just close my eyes and sit in the car, right? So I don't want to fall asleep while I'm driving, of course. But
I would say this, that in light of all of the people that I see every day, and I'm guilty of this myself, and which I absolutely don't like that I do this, texting while you're driving, looking at your phone while you're driving, even manipulating your phone to make a phone call is a real problem. And those of us that ride bicycles and motorcycles are scared to death of the driver who's distracted, because they become a real threat to everyone, but especially if you're more vulnerable on a bike.
Let me read you this text. We have a texter. He says, I do it every day. It's one of my favorite parts of the day. I sometimes even take a power nap there. And he says specifically to you, Greg, if I go in, my wife will put me to work. And then he says, it definitely helps me endure the end of the day. And he says, I used to do it before it was a trend. I've done it for years.
Okay, well.
So a great reset.
And now I feel guilty because I'm like in the house going, come in and let's start making dinner, which is completely unfair.
And I actually go in and start working right away too, right? So maybe it is a deliberate reset for me. So there's a couple of dogs. I've got my son who's in the wheelchair who needs help when I get home. And it's... I guess without me even realizing it, it was a chance to reset when I get home.
An interesting phenomena that you don't think about. Although now that it's brought to your attention, you do think about it because people do it all the time. And I just thought it was an unusual thing that my wife did.
So
and she was the only one.
For people who are interesting, I hope you're interesting. Yeah. If you're interested, there are actually anti-doom scrolling influencers, which that can be good, right? So you've got, there's somebody, I'm looking at an Associated Press article, Olivia Yokobonis. She pops up on social media platforms telling people, like she's trying to interrupt the doom scroll and talk to people directly. So that's an interesting concept as well.
Time out.
Okay.
What's a doom scroll?
Okay. That's a really good question. So doom scrolling is like you're flipping through your social media feeds and everything is just like negative and depressing, and you see all these things and they make you mad, and right. And so it's the doom stuff. One of the things that I used to do more deliberately was look for funny dog and cat videos because they're out there in abundance. But that makes me happy. But the way the algorithms work is they feed you negative content because you respond more often to those.
Let me tell you how backward I am technologically. I cannot do social media on my phone. I don't have the app or whatever. If I want to look at something, I have to be on my tablet or laptop or something. I mean, from my phone, it's texts, emails, and phone calls. Period. That's what I can access.
Well,
So I don't doom scroll.
I would say too, with doom scrolling, like we're kind of hardwired to look for threats. So think back to like cavemen, and we're trying to make sure the saber-toothed tiger doesn't eat us. So we see a lot of these things like we're gonna have a nuclear bomb dropped on us, and
right.
This week. I mean that's part of doom scrolling. So it really can be a useful reset if you're in your car.
My doom scroll is when I get home and I turn on my phone and my wife says, "On your way home, will you stop at the store?"
Uh-oh.
And then I'm like, "Oh, I should have looked at this before," which would have been wrong. That I have to turn around and go back out. So that's my doom scrolling.
That's funny. And you don't live close to a store. So no. I saw an interesting article this morning. I'm trying to pull it up really quickly, but there's an article in the Washington Post that says, speaking of social media really quickly, that this detox may erase 10 years of social media damage. Let's see. And they're saying that if you've got 2 weeks to stay off your phone, then it can reset your brain if you do this digital detox.
That's good. That's great.
Yeah, so.
Yesterday we took an hour in this show and we broke down the emotional impact of war on families. We talked about children. We talked about schools. We talked to people who are involved in counseling schools, and even a mother who's who dealt with her children while her husband was away, who was in the Marines. Today we're going to shift gears and talk about the financial impact that war has had and the pressure on the Strait of Hormuz and what it's causing families to do. We're going to spend a special hour on that. We want you to text us with your financial questions at 57500, and we'll even have a financial advisor with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour. Domestic violence experts say if you suspect there is domestic violence happening, you should call police. Terry Morgan is appearing in court today for the accused murder of her boyfriend. Neighbors say they often heard the couple arguing but didn't know what to do.
I would dial 911 and I would say, I think there is a domestic violence situation happening in my neighbor's house. I fear for somebody's safety. Could you please send a patrol car out?
YCC's Family Crisis Center's Amber Passo says it could be dangerous to interfere yourself, and calling police is the correct course. Our top national story this hour. Talks to formalize the ceasefire agreement with Iran are set to begin this weekend in Pakistan. But huge questions remain, including who will ultimately control the Strait of Hormuz. Before the war, ships could pass through free of charge. Now the president is suggesting the U.S. and Iran could work together to collect tolls, potentially giving Iran more power over the global economy.
As negotiators try to wind down this conflict, the president continues to vent his frustration with NATO allies for not supporting his war effort. An administration official telling ABC News the U.S. is weighing plans to shift troops away from countries that were seen as being unhelpful during this conflict.
That's ABC's Mary Bruce. The American economy in the last quarter of last year was growing, but only by 0.5%. More from ABC's Elizabeth Schulze.
What that tells us is that the economy had been slowing down going into the start of this year, and that's before some of the more recent headwinds that we've been seeing when it comes to the price of oil and that shock to the oil supply.
That's a new GDP report out this morning from the Commerce Department. Your money at this moment, the stocks have taken a positive turn. The Dow is now up 220 points. That's 0.5%. We're over 48,000 at 48,130. Coming up, we'll be warm today and tomorrow before a storm system comes. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-979-3535. That's 800-979-3535. 800-979-3535.
Hey, it's Brian with Olson's Greenhouse. In today's busy world, your home should be your sanctuary, a peaceful retreat where you can unwind, breathe deeply, and recharge. And what better way to create that haven than with flowers? A pop of color in your flower beds, a cheerful container garden by the front door, or a lush patio filled with vibrant blooms can transform any space into a personal oasis. Flowers don't just brighten up your home, they lift your spirits too. Research even shows that surrounding yourself with plants can reduce stress and boost happiness. At Olson's Greenhouse, we grow premium quality plants that make it easy to bring beauty and joy into your life. Whether you prefer bold, eye-catching colors or soft, soothing pastels, we have the perfect flowers to complement your space. And with locally grown plants, you know they're ready to thrive. This spring, create a sanctuary of color and comfort with flowers from Olson's Greenhouse. Find us on Instagram at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens or go to OGG.com to find a retailer near you. That's OGG.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens.
The Children's Center Utah provides a unique service in our communities.
by meeting the needs of very young children and their caregivers. Here's another Little Minds Big Hope message from Dr. Jennifer Mitchell, the Children's Center Vice President of Clinical Strategy and Innovation.
Did you know early mental health support can change the course of a child's life? The earlier children get help, the better their long-term outcomes can be. Find out more at childrencenterutah.org.
I'm Congressman Mike Kennedy. For years, Utah families have paid too much for health care, groceries, and everyday essentials. I'm fighting for health care reform that puts patients first and lowers costs. I'm also working to cut waste, fraud, and abuse in Washington because your tax dollars should be spent wisely. Fiscal responsibility means lower costs and a government that works for you. I'm Mike Kennedy, and I'll keep fighting for Utah families. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big. UCCU, love where you bank. And here's Cormac Bone.
It's a pretty smooth drive all across the Wasatch Front. We don't have any major accidents or delays. I-15 running clean and clear between Ogden and Provo. Where we do have delays is just construction zones. Eastbound Pioneer Crossing in Lehigh seeing some heavy and slow traffic starting as you approach 7800 West and reaching over to I-15. And northbound SR-36 having some delays that are reaching far later into the day than we usually see it. It's because it looks like they've been intermittently closing the lanes on northbound SR-36 just after Canyon Road. Right now it looks like both are open, but they've had 1 to 2 closed on again, off again. I'm Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Partly cloudy today, a high of 75, 77 tomorrow. Then that chance of rain begins on Saturday, but the best chance looks like Monday. Much cooler temperatures. Monday and Tuesday will only be in the 50s for a high. Right now it's 57 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio. War in Iran.
Well, the war in Iran is wreaking havoc on our economy, and who would have thought that something as narrow as the Strait of Hormuz, a little water passageway, would make such a big difference in the way we handle the world's energy supply. We want to better understand the impact of the war and the impact of the Strait of Hormuz on the U.S. economy for the next hour.
And first, we just need to do a little update on recent developments. So Iran is saying that Israeli attacks on Lebanon, which are targeting Hezbollah, violate the ceasefire deal. Prime Minister Netanyahu said the 2-week ceasefire deal does not include Lebanon. And those tensions matter because they directly affect whether Iran keeps the strait open. So retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Dan Karbler spoke about those recent pressures.
Probably got to try to get Israel back in the box a little bit. I think the president's going to have to speak with Netanyahu to, reduce the attacks that are going on in Lebanon, because I think the president's main goal, or probably one of his top 2 priorities, is get the Strait of Hormuz open right now. And if the attacks on Lebanon continue, I don't think Iran's going to allow the strait to be open.
So we have with us to break this down for us Michael Kofed. He's an assistant professor of economics at the University of Tennessee and a research fellow at the Institute of Labor Economics. And Michael, can you just, first of all, thanks for joining us, but can you start by telling us just a large overview of the Strait of Hormuz?
Yeah, Holly and Greg, thank you for having me back again. So the Strait of Hormuz is an interesting geographic feature. I have a map pulled up in front of me because it is kind of a point where, if you have this map, you look at Saudi Arabia, on this corner, this kind of southeast corner of Saudi Arabia, there's this horn that goes up, and that's where you have United Arab Emirates, Oman, all kind of come together. And the gap there, the strait, is about 20 miles at its shortest point between Iran and the tip of Oman. And that's where we need to put 20% of the world's oil supply through. It makes kind of a U-shaped. And what is also important to know is not the entire strait is navigable. Only about 2.5 miles of that strait. So maybe about halfway of biking the Antelope Island Causeway in Davis County. That is it that we have to work with.
So how is it that that seems to be controlled by Iran, where you've got Oman, UAR, Saudi on the other side? Why is it that we all seem to think that Iran is directing traffic there?
Yeah, the reason why is because there's a very tiny tip that Oman and UAE kind of can control. On the other side, on the Iranian side, there's these gigantic cliffs that give it a strategic advantage. And so they can set up things like anti-aircraft missiles or different weapon systems on the top of these giant cliffs to rain down on any kind of intruder that comes through.
So what kind of things flow through the strait besides just 20% of the world's oil?
Yeah, so anything that you want to try to move from the Persian Gulf out. So like previously we had talked about the world's fertilizer supply that's coming from the Persian Gulf. The Saudi Arabia and UAE exports a huge chunk of the world's liquefied natural gas. And it's because of all these different areas that are making these petroleum-based products. You can build a pipeline, and the Saudis have tried to go from the coast across their country around the Strait of Hormuz, but it's such a tiny pipeline that you have to maintain over a huge geographic space that it no longer becomes cost beneficial to do so. So that's why they've loaded a lot of these exports onto these boats that just try to make this one turn to export to the greater world.
Can you educate our listeners, Professor Kofod, about the global price of oil? And I mentioned that because we hear that 20% of oil travels through the Strait of Hormuz, but when that strait is plugged up, it affects the entire global price of oil. And the United States, for example, and perhaps maybe Canada and others don't rely on the strait for their oil prices, but our oil prices go up.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's a big misconception that people have. So oil is what we would call in economics a commodity. What a commodity means is that oil from Iran, oil from Texas, oil from Norway, it's all about the same thing. And so this is a product that's essentially uniform across the world. Because of that, no one country kind of can produce oil that tastes better and thus kind of have like a market power. And so essentially when we want to sell oil, we have to go to the global market, and that global market is going to bid up one price. So even though we might say we're not going to buy Iranian oil, China is going to buy Iranian oil, and that's where most Iranian oil goes to, is China. But if that strait is now closed, China now turns around and says, well, we need to now buy oil from other areas of the world that we normally didn't do business with. And that pushes that price up even for Western countries like the United States and Canada that don't rely on Iran.
Is there a big picture impact to the economy because of what's happening with the strait right now?
Yeah, so I think that what I would say is there is a micro picture, a macro picture, and a super macro picture. Let's just do it the macro that a lot of people are talking about. War is always inflationary, and it depends on which type of war you have going on. World War II was inflationary in that it pushed demand for products in the United States sky high, so that meant prices went up, but also employment went up. We needed Rosie the Riveter to go in and make the arsenal of democracy. This war is going to be different because it is attacking the inputs that we need for our economy. And so that's going to cause prices to go up. But now businesses can't hire as many people because their costs of business have gone up. So they might choose to lay off and scale down their production. So this would maybe cause inflation plus an unemployment spike and an economic slowdown.
And Michael, finally, we've got about a minute left, but are oil and fertilizer, the two things that are flowing through the strait, such an important commodity internationally that they could have a huge effect on the global economy?
Yeah, they could, especially on the global and different regions of the world. So sub-Saharan Africa, East Asia, China, that's where probably the biggest pain is going to be. But that also is going to, bleed over into the United States. If now sub-Saharan Africa needs food from other areas of the world, that means that the food supply we rely on will be priced up as well.
All right. I have a question that I think is probably on a lot of people's minds, but will you stay with us over the break as I ask it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if the war ended today and the strait was fully open, how long is it going to take for gas prices to come down?
I would say that it would take gas prices shorter time to go down than they went up because of the uncertainty.
Okay. Well, stay with us because we have more questions for you. That's Michael Kofed, and we'll be right back.
Does your home have peeling paint or faded colors? Don't procrastinate. You need to protect your home with quality paint and a worry-free process, so make an appointment with CertaPro Painters. You quickly get a free estimate that's detailed, easy to understand, and then their trusted local professionals will bring fresh color to your home with quality craftsmanship at the right price. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated, so schedule your free estimate at CertaPro.com. That's Certa with a C. CertaPro.com.
Are you looking to find more fairways, hit more greens, and lower your scores? Then it's time for a custom fitting from a Shields certified master fitter. Learning from the world's top fitters at Titleist Performance Institute, Callaway Performance Center, and the Ping Proving Grounds, we have the tools and expertise to match the right clubs to your swing for a more consistent game. Elevate your play today. Visit shields.com/expert fitting to schedule your session.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Do you want to walk, play pickleball, and enjoy other fun activities to stay healthy, but you can't because of bad feet? Hi, this is Mike, and the Good Feet store wants to help.
I just had difficulty walking. I tried them on in the store, and my foot felt so much better.
Do you keep buying new shoes and inserts with little or no relief?
I tried all kinds of shoes. It was the arch supports that made the difference from the Good Feet store.
Don't let bad feet, knees, or back problems get in the way of staying healthy and having fun.
Thanks to the Good Feet store, I'm bowling 3 nights a week.
Get back to doing what you love. At the Good Feet store, we'll personally fit you at high-quality arch supports to maximize your comfort. Stop in the Good Feet store or book your free fitting at goodfeet.com. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. You can feel the spring in the air. As a matter of fact, we've been feeling the spring in the air all winter long, but as the season genuinely changes, it's time to make your reservation at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, Hotel Park City and downtown Salt Lake City. And don't forget, quite a few great events are just around the corner, including some holidays. We'll have a lot of visitors in Salt Lake City before long, and it's time to make your reservation at the downtown location, 275 South West Temple. And of course, up in the mountains, it is beautiful. There's still some skiing going on. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse is right there at Hotel Park City. The best meal you have ever had awaits you at Ruth's Chris, whether it's steaks, whether it's poultry, whether it's seafood, the side dishes, the desserts. You're going to love Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, downtown Salt Lake City and Hotel Park City.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a gripping new 9-part investigative podcast about a serial killer you've probably never heard of, Warren Forrest, a sadistic predator who prowled the Pacific Northwest in the early 70s. He hid behind the deeds of Ted Bundy, and he's only been convicted of 2 murders, but is suspected of many more. Since the release of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a witness identified in the podcast could lead investigators to the remains of Jamie Grissom.
He ran into the woods. He said he stumbled. As he fell down, he looks up and sees the body of a young woman.
And now the FBI is testing forensic evidence that had been collecting dust for decades. This cold case is now red hot. Binge the entire season of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley right now, wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest breaking news.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
If you're struggling with your mortgage, there's a free government program that offers expert one-on-one advice about your mortgage options. Call 1-888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
And expanded Inside Sources.
We're continuing our special hour on the economic shakeups from the war in Iran, and we learned just this morning that the American economy grew at a pace much slower than expected. It was supposed to grow, Holly, at a rate of 1.4%. It grew at 0.5%. Here's more from ABC's Elizabeth Schultze.
What that tells us is that the economy had been slowing down going into the start of this year, and that's before some of the more recent headwinds that we've been seeing when it comes to the price of oil and that shock to the oil supply.
Well, we still have with us Michael Kofod. He's an assistant professor of economics at the University of Tennessee and a research fellow at the Institute of Labor Economics. He also has had experience teaching about economics and national security, which I think is super interesting. And I wanted to talk to you about that, if that's okay, Dr. Kofod.
Yeah, you bet.
So one of my questions is, when we're talking about economics and national security, what kind of impacts do you see, or did you teach your students about when we're talking about conflict and war, and how it impacts maybe even down to the individual level?
No, that's a great question. So before I came to the University of Tennessee, I taught at West Point, the United States Military Academy, for 9 years as a civilian instructor. I should say that this is all my opinion and not theirs, obviously, because I'm no longer there. But when we think about conflict and war, I used to like to teach my students that you can model war just like you could model a conflict within a family. So when my kids want to slice up the pizza, I usually, as the parent, do the one kid slices and the other kid picks decision to try to avoid conflict. But sometimes when that happens is we are going to fight over this pizza and how we're going to slice it up. And if one decision we could make is we could split it, like I just described, which is classic parenthood. Or the other decision is the two kids can fight about it. But when they fight about it, they're going to break a piece of the pizza and accidentally throw that away. And that's going to be what we call the cost of war. And then the winner gets to keep everything, the whole pizza minus this slice that got ruined because of the conflict. And so usually these costs of war deter us from fighting. And some of those costs can be gas prices spiking or an economic issues because of this conflict. But leaders might still go to war because they can they overestimate their probability of winning and then receiving all of the gains, or there might be a lack of checks and balances so that the leader might be able to fight a conflict but not suffer those costs themselves, those political costs. And so what we're kind of seeing right now is with the War Powers Act of 1978, that's taken away some of the checks and balances on the United States side. And on the Iranian side, you have a dictatorship, so there are no checks and balances. And so that might be one of the explanations that after 40 years, we've now slipped into a conflict here.
Can you tell us how it is that the Department of Commerce predicts a growth of 1.5% or 1.4%, and we only get 0.5%, and if, in fact, that could be or maybe is a direct result of the war and what's happening with the Strait of Hormuz?
Yeah, so the numbers that we saw recently are revised numbers from the last quarter of 2015. And so what happens there is they're going to send out, the Department of Commerce is going to send out a survey. They're going to be able to sample some employers to understand what has been produced this quarter, that's GDP, and maybe what those things cost, that's the producer price index. And at the end, months later, they no longer get to do this survey, but rather they get to see everything that's produced. And so if, for example, in the time that they issued the survey to the time that they get the census, if there's something going on in the economy that's causing movement, that's going to cause their estimates to have to go up or go down. I don't think the 0.5 is necessarily from the war in Iran, but it's a slowing trend that we had seen all year because of the tariffs that are still out there and lurking in the background. And then you have to ask yourself now as a forecaster, do I think the Iranian war is going to boost GDP, because I can't see those numbers yet, or cause decline in GDP? And I would probably put the money on the decline right now.
But we won't know that until numbers come out.
Come out for Q1.
Would that be
that
like
quarter ended.
June?
Probably, because that quarter ended like 8 days ago.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
I wonder how does war impact, or the costs of war impact people who are actually in the conflict? So say our military members or their families. Does it have a different kind of impact?
Yeah, so that's one question that I've spent my whole career studying. So what we've done is we use the data from the combat orders, and so I can see soldiers who, by essentially random assignment, are sent into a combat zone, or the units that don't get activated. And we want to compare those across both like the family welfare, the health of the service member. And what we find is that, for example, PTSD diagnoses spike at a dramatic rate. Folks come home more likely with a traumatic brain injury because of their conflict, or we've seen unemployment issues. So like there's higher unemployment for veterans that experienced combat rather than those who did not. And so that's kind of what I like to call the micro level of the cost of war, is the individual effect that it has on soldiers and their own families.
Let's go to the other end of what you talked about, Professor Kofod, and that is what you described as the super macro level. What were you speaking about there?
Yeah, so what I would like to call super macro, so we talked about inflation and unemployment just a couple minutes ago. Super macro now is how the international kind of economy works. And so the Straits of Hormuz is a geographic choke point that Iran has. We're not unarmed either. We have a significant choke point, and that choke point advantage is oil is denominated in dollars. And that means anyone that wants to buy oil on that commodity market that we talked about has to do it with dollars, United States dollars. And that transaction then has to flow through our government, essentially. You got to buy dollars from someone to be able to purchase oil. Now, what Iran could do here that could put us at a strategic disadvantage is they could say, most of our exports go to China. We don't want to have 20% of the oils denominated in dollars anymore. We want it now denominated in Chinese yuan or a basket of other currencies. That would then weaken our ability to maybe cut off certain countries from oil supply because we're not going to give them dollars, for example.
That is really interesting. I wonder if you could maybe just finally in our last minute or two talk about are there gains? Why, from a macro perspective, why do countries decide to go to war?
Yeah, so the only reason why countries decide to go to war is they feel that the probability of victory combined with the marginal benefit of victory is going to outweigh splitting the pizza between the two of us. So, for example, if I am Franklin Roosevelt and I see the Nazis rolling across Europe, I'm going to look at Hitler and be like, I think I can defeat him, and also beating Hitler is better than some kind of settlement where he has Europe to his dominion and leaves us alone. And so thus I'm going to choose to go to war because while there'll be a big cost of fighting World War II, the benefit of winning overwhelms that cost. It's the same as why the Ukraine-Russian war is at a stalemate, because Zelensky says that having their sovereignty overweighs this cost of war, and Putin says not losing face overweighs the cost of war. Mm-hmm. So what we would have to do in the Iranian, U.S., and Israel conflict is then make that argument that this conflict is so important and the probability of us winning it is so great that it overwhelms these potential costs to soldiers, inflation at home, and losing these strategic advantages. And that's up to the administration to make that argument. There could be a good argument there, but they need to make that argument.
Very well. That was Michael Kofod, Assistant Professor of Economics at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, Research Fellow at the Institute of Labor Economics, who's so available to us and so helpful to us. And I had a couple more questions. I wish we could have kept him longer. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the economic impacts of the war just starting to hit our wallets here in Utah. We'll have a financial planner in studio to help you understand how you can handle this roller coaster of an economy and your burning budget questions. Remember that you can text us at 57500 with your finance questions. We'll be right back.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour: plans to update and revamp hiking trails in the Salt Lake City foothills are making progress. After a presentation from Public Lands, council members voted to release $200,000 that had been withheld for nearly 5 years. Trails and Natural Lands Division Director Tyler Funero said safety played a big part in the updated plan.
Extensive interviews with the fire department, with Captain Winkler at Station 4 and others at the department on emergency access. That's a big component of the plan, is emergency access as well as wildfire fighting.
The council says they want to prioritize safety and ensure the trails can be enjoyed by community members for years to come. Authorities in Sand Mountain are begging people to be careful after a third crash in just a week. The latest was a 19-year-old woman involved in a rollover crash in a recreation vehicle. They say she was airlifted from the crash to a St. George hospital, and her condition is currently unavailable. Hurricane Valley Fire District Battalion Chief Tyler Ames told the St. George News that people need to slow down, wear their seatbelts and helmets, and just be cautious on the sand dunes. Our top national story this hour: a federal appeals court this morning will consider overturning the criminal conviction of Sean Diddy Combs.
Sean Combs' lawyers argue that he was given an unfairly stiff 50-month prison sentence for prostitution offenses, even though the jury acquitted him on the more serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. They're now asking an appeals court to reduce the sentence or throw the case out completely. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo after Combs' sentencing last year.
The jury's verdict was resoundingly clear. There was no sex trafficking. There was no racketeering.
Combs is tentatively scheduled to be released from prison in 2 years. Peter Haralambous, ABC News, New York.
Your money at this moment: the Dow is up 281 points. That's 0.6%. We're at 48,190. Coming up, we'll get a look at the forecast, find out when this rain is going to make its way to Utah. That's just ahead with KSL Weather next. KSL News Time, 10:32. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM. Andy, I like that shirt. Is that a new shirt?
It is. It's from Ann Collar, and it's really rare to find a shirt that looks good and is super comfortable. And this is a fabric unlike anything I've ever felt.
I got one for my husband and my sons, and watching my 19-year-old put on the Ann Collar shirt and sort of check himself out in the mirror, I thought, wow, he's really digging that. And I can understand why, because it's not just comfortable, it's stain repellent, which I needed.
Oh, my goodness. That is something.
He attracts spaghetti sauce to shirts like you would not believe. And with these Ann Collar shirts, I can get it out.
Amanda, I have to wear a special bib when I eat spaghetti with a white shirt on. But with Ann Collar shirts, it takes those little tiny nicks and stains, and they don't stick to you. Yeah, you don't have to dump a bucket of stuff on you, but it would repel that too.
You've got to try one. So whether it's the traditional white shirt or any of the patterns they have, it's Ann Collar, and they're made right here in Utah.
If you've never tried Ann Collar before, we have got permission to give you 15% off at andcollar.com and go get your first. Use the code KSL15.
That's andcollar, andcollar.com.
Progressive knows that for business owners, vacations hit different. But hey, at least you finally took a vacation. And look at that. You only answered 53 calls, 84 emails, onboarded one new hire, and covered for Chris while he's out on paternity leave, and you did it all from a kayak. Because you, my friend, know how to relax. All right, you may not know how to take a day off, but you do know both your personal and business auto insurance needs can be covered in one place with Progressive. So at least that's relaxing, right? Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, not available in all states or situations.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Every day here in Utah, people turn to KSL News Radio for one simple reason: trust. Trust for our reporters, hosts, our coverage, and trust in the businesses heard right here. I've met so many of our listeners over the years, and they'll tell you KSL is part of their daily routine, in the car, at work, at home. And when they hear your business here, it carries the weight of that trust. It isn't just another ad. It's a recommendation coming from a reliable source. When you advertise on KSL News Radio, you reach a loyal, highly engaged audience who listens intentionally. They show up for breaking news, accurate information, and meaningful conversations. And because of that connection, they respond. And when you pair our on-air credibility with digital tools like display advertising, social media, streaming audio, search, geo-targeting, and retargeting, you get a full funnel strategy that works and reaches the right people at the right time. Get marketing that truly moves the needle. Partner with the voice Utah trusts. KSL. Learn more at kslnewsradio.com/advertise. Traffic and weather together, brought to you by UCCU. Earned 4.24% on savings at uccu.com. And here's Cormac Bone.
Just construction causing our worst delays on the roadways in the midday. We do have eastbound delays on Pioneer Crossing, where you'd usually see them just after 7800 West and approaching I-15. And then in Lake Point, northbound SR36, delays there have lasted longer into the day. This is because they've been closing left lane just after Canyon Road on northbound SR36. Looks like they are still closing that lane, but volumes have decreased as there's less drivers on the road in the midday. I-15, no delays between Ogden and Provo. When you need the financial products and services for every stage of life, Cyprus Credit Union is there for whatever the future holds. Visit cypruscu.com today. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be partly cloudy with a high around 75. Warmer tomorrow, 77. Saturday, we cool down to 70 before the storm system moves in and brings rain Sunday and Monday and cooler temperatures to start off next week. Right now, it's cloudy and 59 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio. War in Iran.
I drove up I-15 and I passed multiple gas stations on the way, and I am seeing gas for $4.29 a gallon and $5.29 a gallon if you're buying diesel.
Yep.
And, you know, I think this economy, it's uncertain. And I guess that has me asking questions about how do you navigate uncertainty in your family budget and even in your family income. But we do want to talk to our listeners, too, today.
Yeah, text us your personal finance questions at 57500 or just call us at 801-575-TALK. What's the biggest financial stressor impacting your life right now? And we have an expert in the studio to help with the answers.
We do. We have Shane Stewart, certified financial planner with the MBA. Thanks for joining us, Shane.
I'm glad to. Thanks.
First time in studio with us, so That's awesome. There's a lot of questions that I have, but one of the first is, how do you plan for uncertainty?
Yeah, and I love that you use the word uncertainty, because that's really what's going on here. Is yesterday the war was over, oil went down,
right,
and there was a ceasefire. Everything was great. Markets went up, oil went down. Today, not so much, right? It's very uncertain, and that's very common when you're dealing with this kind of world event. So how do you deal with it? You have principles. What I mean by principles are you stick to certain principles when it comes to financial issues. For example, let's say our retirement. We don't panic when we see markets go up and down. It behooves us to stay where we are, keep the course, so to speak, and ride those things out. Now it's the most uncomfortable time to do that, right? And another issue would be, for example, budgeting. No one likes to budget, so I've switched the word to spending plan so that you can spend. But you really have to keep track of what you're spending and make sure that you're within that spending plan. And the economy gets good, we get a little lax in that. But when the economy gets a little tight, and we're probably going to see some inflationary period here, you have to pay attention. That's an eternal principle you have to stick to. And that's how you navigate uncertainty, is just sticking to those basic principles.
How does, this is a question that probably has a long answer, but how does our age factor into that? And I mention this because I'm a retirement age, and I could retire. And so I'm not looking at, the war as boy, how's that going to affect me over the next 20 or 30 years? Maybe I should. I don't know, Shane. What do you tell people in terms of, I guess I'm looking sort of down the road a little bit and what's happening right now with our economy. I appreciate what you just said, which is don't panic, don't just pull everything out. But what about the long or short-term effects?
Within those principles are some customization. So, for example, if you're talking to a 20-year-old about writing things out in the long term and being patient, it's very different than talking to Greg about, no offense, Greg, but to Greg about what the long term looks like. And then the long term still for you, Greg, is, I hope, 20, 30 years, right? Yeah. However, you have to behave a little differently. For example, that 20-year-old in their retirement account would still be in almost entirely in stock, most likely, or a big percentage in stock, which are more volatile, and just ride those big ups and downs. Someone near retirement age or into retirement would want to have a good mix of stocks and bonds that balance that out. They're still riding out the market, but they're not taking the big kid roller coaster. They're taking the kiddie roller coaster. And what I mean by that is the smaller ups and downs. And so you're right. Customization within those principles is very important. You don't want to be heavy in stock in retirement and then realize everything's gone down. Absolutely.
So related to my first question, we've had a texter before tell us that their monthly budget for food has doubled. Yeah. And that seems to be, even if you're making a spending plan and you're saying, I'm going to spend X number of dollars, when the price when you go to the grocery store has increased enough that you're doubling your food spending plan. Yeah. How do you navigate that as well?
Yeah, you're blowing out your spending plan without even trying, right? It's not your habit, it's the cost.
Exactly.
That comes to a point where you have to start prioritizing. And that's very difficult to do. I've had many people come to me over my career and say, here's what we spend, tell us what to cut out. And I hand it back to them and say, absolutely not. You decide. You're going to have to go through that process and decide, prioritize what's most important to you. And I find it interesting when someone's forced to do that. Forced is a strong word, but when out of necessity they have to do that, they seem to find ways to do that. I've done that in my life over the years as newly married with no children, with children. Now I'm an empty nester. Just different times you have to make those adjustments. And so you really do have to find out what you actually spend. 8 out of 10 people, maybe closer to 7 out of 10 people, don't really know exactly where it's going. Stop, take a look at that. It's easy nowadays. You can just look at a bank statement or a credit card statement and see the categories, and then make some decisions on how to maneuver, how to get through that, because you're right, it's going to go up in certain areas, gas, food, those types of things. So hopefully you don't have to cut out, but if you have to, what do you cut out or put on hold for a while as you get through this?
Between the war involving the global oil market and fertilizer and other things and tariffs, I think a lot of Americans, a lot of Utahns are wondering, what do we do? I mean, and you got a couple gray hairs, and you just mentioned that you're an empty nester, so you know what riding it out is like. Yeah. I mean, and no offense, I didn't mean anything by that. You're much you're much younger than I am.
I love it.
But I just wonder what people should take from this, because I mean, people aren't spending money. Businesses aren't investing right now. Yeah. People are taking a step back, and who knows how long that's going to last. So I know you don't have the crystal ball, but you must have a crystal ball because you've been so successful. What are you telling people right now?
Yeah, well, you reported this morning the slowdown in the economic growth, and that was already happening, and this is just intensifying that. And it's cyclical. We're seeing that same cycle. In fact, thinking about this morning, we all survived a pretty heavy inflationary period, and it was only 5 years ago. It was,
feels like a lot longer.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, but we survived it. We went through it. And so, Greg, to your point, I think what you do is have that long-term approach, no matter your time frame, right? You have even someone into their, my mom's about 80 years old. She's going to kill me because she's under 80, but she's getting there. And she should have a same mentality that this is temporary. Now, you do have to do things to survive it and go well and not get yourself into debt or other problems, but you do have to have that mentality that this is cyclical. It won't last forever. and things will work. Yeah.
I have other questions, and we're already out of time in our first segment. Sure. So I'll just remind our listeners, you can text us your personal finance questions at 57500, and we're going to have Shane stay with us over this break, because one of my questions is about finances and relationships, really, because I know it can be such a huge stressor. So stay with us over this break.
One 877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cards for Kids. 1-877 Cards for Kids. Donate your card today.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Ready to get rid of that old car? Donate it to Cars for Kids. Call 877 Cars for Kids to speak to a friendly live agent. Donation is super easy, and your car can be picked up as soon as tomorrow. Go to carsforkids.org now or call 877 Cars for Kids to donate your car today.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids.
Did you know you can donate real estate too? Go to carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
Is your financial advisor managing your risk or just a spreadsheet? Hi, I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. Many financial advisors rely on target date funds, which are one-size-fits-all portfolios that don't know your name, your family, or your goals. And that passive management can leave you dangerously exposed. At Trajan, we look at the whole picture, not just the stocks everyone else buys, but the private market opportunities most advisors ignore. And as fiduciaries, we build a strategy around you, coordinating your investments, tax strategy, and estate into one cohesive plan. Your financial life deserves more than just a generic portfolio. Real planning isn't a stack of statements. It's the confidence of knowing where your income will come from for the next 30 years. Good enough isn't good enough for your family. It's time for a change. Schedule your complimentary consultation today.
Call Trajan today at 801-207-9900. That's 801-207-9900.
Advisory services through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Private equity investments require accreditation. Other services through Trajan Estate and Trajan Tax. Additional disclosures at TrajanWealth.com.
We want to talk about SOTA Diet and Nutrition. SOTA stands for state of the art. And Andy and I both let go of massive amounts of weight. You more than me.
70 pounds in 5 months.
And I did 37 pounds in 3 months. And what worked for me was so many things. Talking to a nutritionist every week and having her tell me what to eat. I can do as I'm told.
Yeah.
But I have no clue where to begin.
And I needed the help too. It's just food. There's no pills, no injections. So you learn how to both let go of the weight and then how to keep it off.
So SOTA Diet and Nutrition is a great place to start. But if you started with pills or medications and you find yourself starting to gain some weight back, SOTA Diet and Nutrition is a great way to learn how to have a new relationship with food to go into the future.
You can talk with a nutritionist by calling 866-800-SOTA, S-O-T-A, or you can go to their website, SOTADietandNutrition.com.
Join now and your partner joins for free. 2 people, real accountability for the price of 1.
Join us for a short time to have results that last a lifetime.
My name is Tom.
My name is Cindy.
We give to and volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
We know our time and money are going to the right places.
We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Gold demand is skyrocketing to record highs. As more Americans rush to preserve their savings, will there be enough gold? I'm Dr. Ron Paul, and I believe physical gold is the only way to truly protect your 401k or IRA savings. Gold offers tangible security that can't be tracked, stolen, or inflated. That's why I strongly advocate for gold IRAs. To learn more, text the word SECURE to 989898 now. Birch Gold Group will send you a free info kit on gold IRAs. Birch Gold is the only gold company I trust, and their thousands of great reviews prove I'm not alone. So don't wait another second. Protect your retirement savings today and see how easy it is to move your IRA or 401k into physical precious metals. Text SECURE to the number 989898 for your free Gold IRA Info Kit. Again, SECURE to 989898.
Message and data rates may apply.
911, tell me exactly what happened. My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but
And you want to think about it for a couple of days?
The podcast, Cold, has gone deep on these kinds of stories.
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
Clearly, something happened on that couch because he cleaned it.
Find and follow Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
Right now, water heaters are on sale at Any Hour Services. Schedule a free estimate today to see how much you'll save. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
So we're feeling this roller coaster of an economy, and it's not just gas prices. Again, just reminding you, if your budget is feeling tight lately or you're not sure how to navigate your retirement plans, you can call in. You can ask Shane Stewart, our personal financial expert, in studio with us today. 801-575-TALK if you want to call in, 801-575-TALK, or you can text us at 57500.
Shane, can you tell us what it is that causes most people stress as they're talking about their finances? Is it
not enough?
Is it like that? How I'm going to deal with the future? Is it how I'm going to deal with things today? Kids, college, or is it just all of the above?
It can be across the board. Holly's word at the open of this, the other segment was uncertainty.
Yeah,
that's an uncertainty. Let's drill down on that word. Not just about external forces like a war in Iran, but also internal uncertainty, meaning, do I have enough money to retire? Yeah. Do I have enough money to cover this month's bills? Do I have, there's just so much uncertainty. And so it really, the people that I see that are successful do what they can to, you can never eliminate that uncertainty, but minimize it. And minimizing it by some of those basics I talked about. Put a spending plan together, and if I'm in a group of 100 people and I ask for a raise of hands, who likes to track their expenses? 2 people. And I'm not one of them. And I'm a financial planner. Nobody really likes to do that, but if you want to be successful, take a look. Just at least take a look.
It sounds like when you're addressing, which we are today, just the impact of the war, the impact of the economy, the impact of things. Your advice, as I'm listening to you, Shane, more and more, is probably the same as it would have been 2 years ago or 4 years ago or 8 years ago, maybe a little bit different. But,
absolutely.
But that hey, you're in it for the long haul. Don't let current situation make you make a foolish decision.
Absolutely. And I always tell people, make decisions financially based on deadlines, not headlines. Oh. And what I mean by that is deadlines till you need the money, deadlines till retirement. Make those not based on the headlines, but on the deadlines.
I have a specific question from a texter. Thank you so much. This texter says they have a 17-year-old son who's been working for the last couple of years. He's been contributing to the company's 401k. He's put around $2,700 into his 401k. He also does the stock option and has about $5,800 in stock. He's 17. Should he be contributing more towards the stocks than the 401k at his age?
First of all, congratulations that you have the kind of child that
I know,
you've
that's
taught them
amazing.
to do. They'll be the most wealthy person if they continue. The time value of money will make that kid very successful if he's consistent. The difference between the 401k and the stock option would be this: the stock option is likely stock in the company he's working for, which is great. But it's also problematic in that it's all the eggs in that basket.
Okay.
Whereas in a 401k, you're typically given mutual funds that give you diversification. You're investing in literally hundreds, sometimes thousands of companies that are diversified. So that if that one company has a hard time, the other 99 or however many there are pick up the slack. So if it were me, I would continue to participate. And I have to be careful about specific over the radio. But if it were me and I were that age, you're probably going to get more bang for the buck, more safety coming from contributing to the 401k. However, don't ignore the stock option. Do as much as you can in that, but do the minimum that it takes to participate. The real success will come from a diversified portfolio in the 401k, because it could be an Enron. Remember the Enron issues back in the day? All of those employees at Enron, were loving the returns of Enron, and they were putting everything in Enron and not in their 401k, and then woke up one day and it was worthless.
Right.
Yeah.
I will just tell you that my parents had that exact scenario. It wasn't Enron, but it was a different company, and they put everything into it. Overnight, company went bankrupt. They lost everything.
Yeah,
Everything.
my dad I told him not to cash it because my dad was given a 2-cent check for a stock option that he had at one point, and I said, "Don't cash that. Just keep that. That's a great."
That kind of leads me into the question that I teased just going out of the last segment, because money can be such a stressor, right? And people, like, if you lose all of your retirement money because you made a bad choice, that puts a lot of strain on relationships. What is your advice as a financial planner for kind of navigating financial stress within relationships?
Unfortunately, financial stress is one of the number one reasons people break up. Yeah, it's one of the number one reasons. And I would point to the reason that causes that is the lack of communication. Communication is key in a lot of things in a relationship, but especially financially. You have to kind of bite the bullet and sit down at the kitchen table once in a while on a regular basis. It could be monthly, it could be quarterly. Even if it were once a year, just say, where are we and how are we doing? I find most financial issues and conflicts come up when they're not talking to each other, when the people in the relationship are just not talking, understanding. And sometimes they're going different directions and they have to come together and figure out which. But most of the time, they're probably wanting the same things, even thinking they're pulling in the same direction, but just really not talking about it. So communication is probably your biggest issue when it comes to problems and relationships. The other part of that is if one person feels like they're pulling more weight than the other person, you have to negotiate that and say, okay, if you're pulling more weight income-wise, what am I doing spending-wise? You share that. And I remember very early in my marriage, I handled everything financial. And I thought, great, because I'm the financial guy, right? And she's a nurse. And so I'm like, okay, when I get injured, you come and play. And what happened is we weren't communicating what was going on, and I realized, there are some points of conflict here, and I actually turned over the household budget to her.
Yeah.
She did better than me, by the way, but also just turned over the household budget so that we shared the load on certain things. I paid some fixed costs. She did the variable cost, and it's worked out really well that way because then we were both involved and not wondering what the other was doing.
We all know people, Shane, who are ready for retirement or thinking about retirement, and then something like what's happening now occurs, a war, tariffs, an uncertain economy. And so they say, and maybe they come to you and say, I was going to retire on my birthday, but I don't know that I dare now. Does it ever make sense to I guess ever is an unfair word because something would always make sense, just to say maybe you should wait a year, maybe you should write it out for a little while.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where it's not just about the numbers, it's about the comfort level. Retirement is a big change. We had a financial planner in our shop who worked for years and in his 60s walked into my office and he said, I'm going to retire. And I said, congratulations. And he said, I said, what can we do to help you with that? And he said, well, I'm afraid to retire.
Yeah.
And I said, and I smiled and kind of almost chuckled. He said, don't laugh, it's serious. And I said, well, hold on, you're saying what everyone always tells us. I don't know what
I'm thinking. Right?
Yeah, I don't know if I can retire and I don't know what I'm going to do. And he said, yeah, but it's different. It's me this time.
Yeah.
And it really hits home. A year later after his retirement, he wrote me back and said, I'll give you a testimonial about it's okay to retire, and you tell everybody. Use my name, I don't, but
yeah.
but he realized that you can retire. And so to your point, Greg, I think it's a very good point in a time like this. Some people will tell me, actually, I was going to retire, but now I can't because of the war in Iran or something like that. I don't believe that. If you're ready, you're ready, because you might be going out on a dip, but if you're properly invested, it will come back around. It's not really that you can't, it's that you don't want to because you're not comfortable. And I do see some people periodically, the pandemic was a good example. They're ready to retire, they're ready to go, and then they went, oh, hold on, I better keep my job for a little longer. That's okay.
Example,
That's okay to do that. That's okay to do that as long as you enjoy the work or at least can put up with it and you stick around a little longer. That's okay, but usually not a financial, it's usually a psychological issue.
Interesting.
We've run out of time, and I have additional
I ask
questions.
All the old person questions.
Well, no, I have questions too, but it's okay. I may have to set an appointment with Shane and just say,
course.
"Look,
Anytime.
you gotta tell me what to do."
Right.
Okay, so as we are wrapping up this segment, we really appreciate everybody listening and talking about the impacts of war. When we come back, we're going to talk about a regulatory sandbox. It's really an interesting idea. Utah has one, and now Utah Congressman Mike Kennedy wants the federal government to adopt Utah's approach to AI. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Cameron Elliott. KSL's top story this hour, rather. Our top national story this hour is from ABC News. Iranian officials aren't committing to the talks with the U.S. that are scheduled for this weekend in Pakistan. ABC's Karen Travers also says for now, the Iranians have said the Strait of Hormuz is reopened, but it's unclear how long that will last.
This is the short term. What happens in the medium and long term? Who controls the strait? The president telling John Karl that there could be a joint venture between the U.S. and Iran, that they could control this together, maybe even charge tolls. Not clear how that would work, and the White House has not said.
The Iranians are upset over Israel's strikes against Lebanon, with the deputy foreign minister saying on social media that ending the hostilities in Lebanon was part of the ceasefire. The Trump administration has pushed back on that, with Vice President Vance characterizing it as a misinterpretation. Other national stories KSL is following: starting later this year, young men will automatically be registered for the draft. But ABC's Cherry Preston reports it's not related to the current conflict in the Middle East.
When American men hit age 18, they have to sign up for the draft pool, but they have to go to the post office and do it manually. A new law that goes into effect in December automatically will register them in the Selective Service System on their 18th birthday, but it's not a new policy, and it's not because of the recent war. The auto register provision was included in last year's Defense Authorization Act passed by Congress as a money-saving measure. There's been no actual draft in the United States since 1973. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow Jones is up. We're seeing green across the board. Dow Jones up 315 points. The S&P 500 is up 40, and the NASDAQ is up 159. Coming up, a hot weekend will give way to a rainy weekend. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Can we talk about something difficult to discuss? Are you going through a difficult financial time? You have equity in your home, but nobody can help? American Home Loans has created the Bridge Loan Program to use your equity regardless of your credit at this time. The bridge loan can be used to pay debts, collections, IRS liens, divorce settlements, or home improvements. Call at 801-262-2221. That's 262-2221. This loan creates a bridge between now and a much brighter future. After COVID, one of their clients had over $85,000 in credit cards. Their scores were too low to borrow on their home. American Home Loans was able to save them $2,000 a month. And after 8 months, they qualified for a conventional loan and lowered their payments. The consultation is free and confidential. Please call them and see what they can do for you. The number is 801-262-2221. It's 262-2221, or go to AmericanHomeLoans.com. AmericanHomeLoans.com. NMLS 245422, Equal Housing Lender.
Every day here in Utah, people turn to KSL News Radio for one simple reason: trust. Trust for our reporters, hosts, our coverage, and trust in the businesses heard right here. I've met so many of our listeners over the years, and they'll tell you KSL is part of their daily routine, in the car, at work, at home. And when they hear your business here, it carries the weight of that trust. It isn't just another ad. It's a recommendation coming from a reliable source. When you advertise on KSL News Radio, you reach a loyal, highly engaged audience who listens intentionally. They show up for breaking news, accurate information, and meaningful conversations. And because of that connection, they respond. And when you pair our on-air credibility with digital tools like display advertising, social media, streaming audio, search, geo-targeting, and retargeting, you get a full funnel strategy that works and reaches the right people at the right time. Get marketing that truly moves the needle. Partner with the voice Utah trusts. KSL. Learn more at kslnewsradio.com/advertise.
Here's the secret no one's telling you about those trendy weight loss shots. You may have to take them for life, and many people gain the weight back after stopping. With the Salt Lake City Fat Loss Program, there's a better way. The proprietary natural-based program they utilize has helped thousands of people lose weight and keep it off long-term. Imagine losing up to 10 to 20% of your body weight in just 8 weeks without muscle loss, side effects, or yo-yo rebounds. Ready to transform your body for life? Schedule your free personalized consultation today at slcfatloss.com.
I'm Jeff Kaplan. With SLC Fat Loss, I lost 32 pounds in 6 short weeks, and I was never hungry. But even more important, I lost that weight 8 months ago. I've kept it all off. I feel younger. I do. It's a great weight loss program. I recommend it. slcfatloss.com.
Many clients lose 20 to 30 pounds in a month or two. Schedule your free consultation today by going to slcfatloss.com. That's slcfatloss.com. Results may vary.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.2% on savings at uccu.com. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Looking pretty good out there right now. We do have a crash, though. This is northbound on Bangerter Highway in West Valley, 4100 South. It is blocking a left lane, so you can use some caution getting around that. They just barely blocked the southbound left lane as well. So again, use some caution in that area. If your roof needs repair or replacement, do it now at S&S Roofing's huge spring sale. Flexible financing options available. Get the best value on the highest quality roofing job. Get a quote today at snsroofingutah.com. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Things are going to warm up through the weekend, hitting a high of 77 and then falling to 64 on Sunday with a 50% chance of rain and falling to 55 by Monday. How right now it's 63 degrees and mostly cloudy. I'm Cameron Elliott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, it's only been a month, but the president asked Congress to pass legislation to regulate artificial intelligence, and it became some controversy. But one congressman from Utah is saying, why don't you just look at what we're doing right here at home in Utah?
Do it the Utah way. So we have a regulatory sandbox, which, you know, when I think of sandbox, I think of kids outside playing in the dirt, right? I mean, it's sand, but technically it's dirt in a different way. So we have Brigham Tomka with us from the Deseret News to help us understand, first of all, what's a regulatory sandbox, and then let's talk AI.
Sure. So in emerging industries, sometimes the existing laws have a hard time dealing with a product or a technology. And so sometimes states, and Utah was actually a leader in doing this back in 2023, will create something called a regulatory sandbox. And what that means is that in coordination with a state agency, a company could apply to have a little bit of leniency and even some protection against liability for a product that they're working on, and they can test it out and then work with regulators to come up with a way to kind of accommodate this new technology. And artificial intelligence is a perfect example of this because it is such a new kind of Wild West area of technology.
So it kind of is playing in the sandbox.
Yeah, and so some people might be worried about the risks associated with that, but I think what we've seen so far is it's actually allowed our state lawmakers to come up with consumer protection type policies that work because they've been able to see it play out in real time, and at the same time it's attracting businesses to the state of Utah that know that they can work with lawmakers with the understanding that, you know, they can craft some of the, or have a role in crafting this policy.
So, Brigham, let's talk about the state-federal interplay, because the federal government was talking, the Trump administration was saying to the states, basically, hands off. This is a federal issue, and we don't want you being involved in it. Utah was already well ahead of the curve. We'd already passed legislation here to deal with that. So what is our Congressman Mike Kennedy doing about trying to sell our product nationally?
Yeah, that's a great question. The approach from the Trump administration since last year has been preemption. And what that word means is to have a federal policy that repeals and replaces all of the state policies. And they tried to insert a moratorium on AI policy in a budget bill last year that would have just erased all the state AI laws. And what they're trying to do now is ask Congress to pass a national framework for AI policy. And what this would largely do is preempt state laws, but allow those state laws dealing narrowly with child protection to stay in place. And so still largely the national framework that the Trump administration is pushing would be to deregulate AI and replace lots of these state laws. But Mike Kennedy, at the request of state officials like Utah Governor Spencer Cox and then our Senate President and House Speaker, is planning to bring back to Washington, D.C. a proposal to apply this regulatory sandbox at the federal level so that there can be some interplay between these business interests and these industry giants and then the kind of regulation you need to ensure consumer protection, especially with something that could be so transformational and disruptive as AI.
Can you remind us why the federal government feels like they have the ability to dictate laws concerning AI in the states, right? Because to me, it does sound like a states' rights issue. What is their argument to say we're going to override all your laws?
Their argument is that, well, I'd say there's a federalism or constitutional type argument and then a more practical argument. And the one that they emphasize most is this practical argument that we are in a global AI arms race, which is a phrase you'll often hear from politicians, where we want this innovation to happen at the quickest and fullest extent possible here in the U.S. with U.S. companies. And so we can't have them be hampered by different types of regulations in all 50 states. That would create a patchwork that would kind of be unworkable for these national companies to work with. And then in terms of the constitutionality, there's questions about interstate commerce because these platforms, they really are national platforms, almost like the internet, right? You don't have a different internet law in most cases in Utah from Colorado. And so they want to treat it as a national platform, and that's where it should be regulated according to the Trump administration.
So how is the Utah model going to be received, if you know yet, or is it still just sort of being thrown out there by our representative? Because it does make a lot of sense to, like you just said, Brigham, why have 50 different models, which I think the administration is trying to avoid. But on the other hand, if some states are doing it right, why not adopt those models?
Yeah, and I think that is the conversation that's happening right now. The senator who chairs the tech committee or the primary technology committee in the Senate, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, actually introduced an act called the Sandbox Act last September. And we have a think tank based out of Utah called the Abundance Institute that actually has a presence on the Hill in Washington, D.C. And they say that this is a Utah model that has already been copy and pasted, into federal legislation. And so they think that Utah is already leading out in the conversation. And now we have Utah's 4 members of the House committing to state leadership that they're also going to try and lobby for this kind of approach being replicated at the national level.
So I feel like things in D.C. are pretty stymied. Like they're just kind of stuck. So what does it really look like moving forward? Has Representative Kennedy indicated that there may be movement on this? I mean, there just seems to be not a lot of movement in D.C.
Yeah, some reporting last week talking with top Democratic policymakers showed that they had almost no interest in this proposal from the Trump administration because they felt like it was replacing state laws with nothing and that it didn't take into account any of these consumer protection concerns. And so they felt like they had been left out of the conversation and that there wasn't much room for compromise coming from the Trump administration. But then again, the CEO of the Abundance Institute, Chris Koopman, who's based out of Utah but is involved in these conversations heavily back in Congress, said that the conversations haven't stalled, they just haven't really begun yet. And he thinks that after we move some of the funding and maybe SAVE Act type debates out of the way later in the summer, that the focus will be this AI federal framework. So I think that this is just the beginning of those conversations.
We've got about a minute left, and maybe this is an unfair question, but do you recall why it was that the administration's sort of planned moratorium on all the states didn't go forward? Was it a congressional, was it that Congress didn't approve it, or were there some other hurdles?
It had been included in some versions of the big beautiful bill, but there was such strong opposition from many senators, including Republican senators, that it was taken out. It was just a no-go for some of these lawmakers who thought that AI is such a tricky issue that we should be allowing these laboratories of democracy like Utah to experiment and work with some of these regulations.
And then he just did it by executive order.
Anyway, right.
So, okay, thanks, Brigham. That was Brigham Tonka with the Deseret News talking about moving the Utah model to the federal level. Hopefully that will go well. We'll see. So this was an interesting development. The Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann admitted to killing 8 women over 17 years. And that was something that I only tangentially followed, but super interesting, I think, that he admitted to an 8th as he pled guilty
he
to
pled
7.
guilty to 7, but said, by the way, I did an 8th.
Yeah, really interesting. So stay with us. We're going to talk about that.
Imagine all that could happen in 5 years. Jobs change, kids grow up, new memes come and go. But what if you had reliable, intelligent Wi-Fi and the price didn't change for 5 years? Well, thanks to the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee, you don't have to worry about that part of your future. You're guaranteed 5 years of Wi-Fi that boosts speeds to your devices that need the most, that finds and fixes any issues before you even notice. It's like a super intelligent Wi-Fi that keeps you protected from online threats. You get incredible gaming speeds on multiple devices and no one battling for bandwidth for the next 5 years. All your devices will be working in perfect harmony with the equipment, with no annual contracts, no fees, and no strings. So even though your kid will grow up and you still won't understand 6, 7, the price for your sharp, reliable internet will stay put. The Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Select plans only.
This is Nate Orchard from Advanced Window Products. When you live in Utah, your windows do a lot more than let the light in. They protect your home from freezing winters, blazing summers, and everything in between. That's why Advanced Window Products builds every window for your local climate. No middleman, no out-of-state delays, just factory direct quality, custom made for your home. Imagine a quieter home, a warmer home, a cooler home. Our high-efficiency vinyl windows are engineered to lower your energy bills and boost your comfort all year round. And installation is done by our own certified in-house crews, never subcontractors. That's why Utah homeowners give us 5-star reviews. Right now, take advantage of our anniversary sale. For a limited time, get $2,500 off when you buy 10 or more windows. Call 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. For 40 years, Advanced Window Products has been the name Utah trusts for custom replacement windows and sliding glass doors. Advanced Window Products, built here, installed here, trusted here. Call 801-850-9100 for that $2,500 off, or visit us at advancedwindows.com to schedule your free in-home estimate.
The more you listen to your kids, the closer you'll be. So we asked kids, what do you want your parents to hear?
I feel sometimes that I'm not listened to. I would just want you to listen to me more often and evaluate situations with me and lead me towards success.
We're not adults, so just be there and listen. I just want someone to yap to. And I just feel like I'll be fine if someone just hears me talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
You're doing a really good job. And I don't think I tell you that enough. And I know sometimes we get into it and it's just hard on both of us. But try to understand me more and I'll try to do the same.
Listening is a form of love. Find resources to help you support your kids and their emotional well-being at sounditouttogether.org. That's sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime.
Our entry-level data plans start at just $20 a month. And for a limited time, switch and get your second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com or a store near you and get your second month free today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional details.
Drivers who switch their home and auto with Progressive could save money and time. Other things try to do this, but they really don't. Like the touchscreen at fast food places. It's not like you save time because it takes you longer to use a touchscreen than, I don't know, someone who works there. And another thing, you'd think it would save money because they're not paying a cashier, right? But no, same price. Also, why is there an option to tip? Who am I tipping? Exactly. Anyway, even if you can't save money and time with some things, you could with a Progressive Home and Auto Bundle. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states or situations.
One Kind Act a Day is a program from the Semnani Family Foundation. One Kind Act a Day seeks to create kinder communities by inspiring daily acts of deliberate kindness. Their work includes programs in schools, businesses, communities, faith groups, and prisons where they help enhance the culture of kindness and increase a sense of community. The world always needs more kindness. No matter what our background or beliefs are, kindness towards others and ourselves is something that everyone can get behind. Kindness can be big or small, but the ripple effect can reach out in ways that we don't even realize. Wouldn't life be better if we were all a little more kind? You can do your part by starting today. All it takes is one kind act a day. Find out more and take the Pledge of Kindness at thepowerofkind.org. That's thepowerofkind.org.
The new Inside Sources.
Well, a really interesting development in a Long Island courtroom yesterday when serial killer Rex Heuermann admitted to killing 8 women over 17 years. Here's ABC News Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katursky.
With the families of his victims in the courtroom and his ex-wife of 27 years and daughter watching, Rex Heuermann leaving no doubt he is the Gilgo Beach serial killer. The suburban dad who worked as an architect on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, admitting he lived a double life, pleading guilty to murdering 8 women and burying their bodies on Long Island, some found dismembered and wrapped in burlap near the beach. Heuermann strangled his victims, who he hired as escorts in a nearly 2-decade killing spree starting in 1993.
Well, that's disturbing.
That's just awful.
It's interesting to me, and I'm not a true crime follower. I feel like the news messes with my head enough. Right? I don't need to follow. But you mentioned he just doesn't seem to care.
You look at this man. He almost looks like you can see right through his soul. I mean, he does not care. I mean, his family's there. He's living this double life, and it appears that most of the deceased, maybe all, were hired as escorts. I mean, he treats people like that as subhuman, not even worth. I don't know. It's awful, and he's going to be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But we just heard from correspondent Aaron Katursky. Aaron also talked about why he may have changed his plea at this particular time.
His attorney didn't really explain, other than to say there came a point where he decided he wanted to plead guilty. And defense attorney Michael Brown said it must have come as a relief.
The presumption of innocence, the right to have a jury of your peers decide your fate. And those are absolute rights. But just the same, a defendant also has an absolute right to change his plea, to accept responsibility and enter a plea of guilty.
And when I spoke to Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney, he told me, Brad, that he thought there was just a point where Rex Heuermann was exhausted. He just didn't want to go on defending himself.
My third-party sort of outside observation, I think he was done. And I think,
done with the
done with the, he wanted this to come to a conclusion. That's just my impression.
And he has to cooperate with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit as part of this guilty plea. And so they're going to be able to maybe get into his head, study the mind of this serial killer, and find out whether he wanted credit, whether he wanted to be known, whether he was looking for self-aggrandizement in all of this. Tierney said he couldn't explain why Rex Heuermann did these things, but he was living a double life as a suburban dad, an architect with an office on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, and all the while soliciting young women for sex and then strangling them, dismembering many of them, and disposing of their bodies all over Long Island.
I'll tell you a potential why, Holly, and that is that he was about to undergo trial. He has a wife and apparently at least one child.
She's an ex-wife now, but yeah.
But to have them sit through the trial, hear the evidence, hear what he did, have the medical examiner talk about how these victims were killed and go through the gruesome details of not only how they were killed, but what led up to them being killed, what they were doing, and what had happened prior to that. Maybe he figured it wasn't worth having to suffer through everyone.
I don't know. I mean, he started killing women a long time ago, 93, and it really impacted the community, as it would, right? So there's a little bit more from ABC's Aaron Kontursky on how these murders impacted the community and how they eventually cracked the case.
These killings terrorized Long Island for more than 30 years because the case went unsolved. And there was a view among some of the families of victims that because they were young sex workers, they were cast aside and investigators weren't really trying. And the district attorney took issue with that view. And it really had to do with the advances in forensic technology, digital forensics, and also DNA, because they extracted DNA from pizza crust that was found outside Heuermann's office in the trash. They compared it to hair samples that they were able to use a new kind of DNA science to study. And that is really what helped crack the case open.
We are forever thankful for the work that led us here. Finally, a sense of relief.
And for the families of victims, they said they never lost hope.
I would never stop searching for justice for you. Through every year, every setback, every unanswered question, I carried you with me.
There's got to be some solace to the victims knowing, Holly, that now justice will be served. I mean, even if it is a life sentence without the possibility of parole times 7 or 8, it apparently, I think it's New York, they don't have the death penalty there. So that wasn't an option, but he'll never walk out of prison. I think he's 62. I mean,
he looks older than that, to be honest. Yeah.
And I'll say this. They mentioned that some of these women, these victims, were sex workers. That's a two-edged sword, because it also causes victims' families, in my personal experience, to not want to come forward and have their daughter or sister, wife sometimes, identified in that capacity. They might just say, I don't want her to be remembered in that way. So it's hard for victims to come forward, and it's also like what they were talking about here, what Aaron Kontursky just spoke. Maybe they're not as sympathetic a victim as others, although they should be. I mean, they're a human being just like anyone else, but they're seen differently by judges and juries and even their own family members. So, yeah, I mean, it was surprising. We watched it here yesterday, I think, when he was in the courtroom and wondering what he was doing. Was he getting ready for a trial? Well, instead he stood there and pled guilty to
7 and admitted to an 8th. And, I want to ask you this question from your legal experience. He is an architect, so a professional, right, in New York. How often is it that you see people who lead these types of double lives, right? I mean, he's not somebody who has a long criminal record, although, I mean, I would say murdering people for 20 years, that would count. But do you know what I'm saying? How many people, in your experience with the law, lead these types of double lives?
I think that because I worked in the Special Victims Unit at the DA's office, and I've done a significant amount of work with both sex crimes victims and sex offenders, that sex offenders almost always live a double life. I mean, that's a group in our society that you don't want to know. They don't want to know. They don't want to talk about what they're doing, but they have this problem, this huge problem that, I mean, I can't imagine that, the desire for that sort of high or whatever you get out of killing someone. It gets to the point where you just want to do it. I mean, he'd done 8 in 17 years. But it's not common by any means, but I do find that it's more serial killers and more people like this are, like you say, people that live double lives probably are sex offenders as much as anything else.
Well, so when he is working with what is it, the FBI?
Yeah.
To understand his mindset, what do you think that they're hoping to learn from him that maybe they don't already know?
So, there are probably 2 things. One is the forensic part of it, like what did you do? How did it come about? What could we tell these victims about their daughter's last day? What attracted you to them? That type of thing. And then I think there's also the the scientific part, like what is it about this man? Are there studies that we can do on his psyche, on his DNA, on anything like that to try to identify people that can do things like this? And the FBI, they have these serial killer task force. They have these serial sex offender task force, and they want to know what makes people click. And there probably isn't ever going to be a straightforward answer, but I mean, wouldn't it have been interesting to spend some time in a realistic sense with Ted Bundy? Of course, I don't think you could believe a word he said, but every once in a while you get somebody like that and you think, do we want to keep that person alive and learn something from them? And maybe this man will do that. Maybe he'll come to the fore and say, okay, here's what I did, here's why I did it, here's my background that sort of got me down this road. So I think a lot could be learned in situations like that, and maybe some further closure for the victims in terms of their family members.
All right. Well, thank you for that information.
Well, eligible men will automatically be registered to the military draft pool by December as part of an effort to streamline the previous process of self-registration and to save money. We'll explain what this means and what it does now when we come back.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL, 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Cameron Elliott. KSL's top local story this hour, an Ogden woman accused of killing her boyfriend is scheduled for her first court appearance this morning. Police arrested Terry Morgan because of text messages and photos they found on her phone where she said she had hit her boyfriend over the head with a bottle and then taken a nap before calling for help. Neighbors say they often heard the couple arguing but didn't know what to do.
Go in and knock on a door if they think something violent is occurring there. It is unsafe.
YCC Family Crisis Center's Amber Passo says police know you believe there might be domestic violence and would like a patrol car to come out. Morgan is scheduled to appear in court this morning at 8 a.m. Domestic violence experts say if you suspect there is domestic violence happening, you should call the police. Terry Morgan appeared in court today for the accused murder, and neighbors said they heard the couples arguing but didn't know what to do.
I would dial 911 and I would say, I think there is a domestic violence situation happening in my neighbor's house. I fear for somebody's safety. Could you please send a patrol car out?
Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow Jones is up 315 points at 0.66%. The S&P 500 is up 46 points at 0.69%, and the Nasdaq is up 193 points at 0.8%. Coming up, warm weather will give way to April showers by the weekend. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
This weekly tax tip is brought to you by the Utah Association of Certified Public Accountants. Here's CEO Susan Spears.
Did you use a payment app last year like Venmo or PayPal? If so, don't ignore this tax form. It's called a 1099-K. A 1099-K doesn't automatically mean you owe more tax, but ignoring it can cause you a headache. This form reports payments you received through apps like Venmo or PayPal. And here's the key thing to know. It shows gross payments, not your profit. That means it doesn't subtract refunds or expenses, and it has no idea whether that money was from a business or just paying a friend back for dinner. Remember, the IRS sees your 1099-K, so the income needs to be reported correctly, even if you don't owe tax on it.
Get the most out of your income tax preparation when you hire a licensed CPA. Visit uacpa.org to find a CPA that's right for you. And check out new tax tip videos by following on social media at Talk to Your CPA.
How was your break? It was great until I stopped for gas. Prices have gone up almost $1 with no end in sight. I might have to start watching how much I drive.
That's exactly why I use Upside. I never pay full price for gas with the free Upside app.
Upside?
Yes, Upside. It's the free app that gives you cash back just for buying the gas you're already buying. So, even with the rising gas prices, I'll never have to limit how much I drive.
Does that actually add up to anything?
Just last year, I made over $200 with the Upside app.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Upside app right now.
Download the free Upside app to earn cash back on the gas you're already buying. Use promo code THRIVE25 for an extra 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime time, right to your bank account or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code THRIVE25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first fill-up. That's THRIVE25.
Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions.
Since 1947, Whipple Service Champions has been Utah's most trusted name for heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical services. Got a high-priced repair bill from another company and you're just not sure about it? Call Whipple. Get a free, no-pressure estimate or bring us their quote for an honest second opinion. Totally free. Whipple Service Champions, Utah's first place for second opinions since 1947. Call 385-273-7167 for your free estimate today. 385-273-7167.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at uccu.com. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Looking at sizable delays for drivers making their way northbound on SR 36, backing up almost to Pole Canyon Road. Now, if you're on the 201, also seeing a little bit of typical slowdowns on the 201 in the Magna area. Create your floral sanctuary with Olson's Greenhouse, locally grown, premium quality flowers, the perfect complement to any space. Cheerful flowers for porches, patios, containers, and beds. Visit Olson's Instagram or ogg.com. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
This week, we're going to see a high of 77 on Friday before taking a dive into the low 60s and high 50s next week with a high chance of rain all weekend into Monday. Right now, though, it's 63 degrees and mostly cloudy downtown. I'm Cameron Elliott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
I guess I hadn't understood this or maybe appreciated it, Holly, but most men between the ages of 18 and 25 are already required to register with the Selective Service. But now, thanks to the 2026 National Defense Authorization Act, they don't register. It's going to be done for them.
You know, and in some ways, I actually thought that was the case already. This does not mean we have reinstated the draft. It means that we are making sure that the people who are already supposed to register are registering.
Right. So I guess I didn't appreciate that. But yeah, men ages 18 to 25 required to register with the Selective Service, meaning that they could be, if
they could be called up.
Situation,
right. I think, that was part of the NDAA that was passed at the end of December or in December. It was, so NDAA is the National Defense Authorization Act. So they just did this, I think, as a way to streamline. So again, already required to do so, but not everybody does it. So the save money part is it's just, well, I don't know, this might be concerning, but it's integrated with federal data sources. So it's under review, though. It's a rule and it's under review.
Right. Well, so the Selective Service System, a government agency that maintains a database for men to be called up to serve in the case of a national emergency, submitted this proposal to the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs on March 30th, according to the office's website. So, like you said, it's in part to save money and to maybe streamline the process a little bit.
So the United States hasn't had a draft since the Vietnam War. In fact, that's how my dad became part of the military. Military service has been voluntary since 1973, but former President Jimmy Carter in 1980 reinstated the Selective Service. So in the event of a national emergency, they could use it to call people up.
Yeah, I remember. They haven't had a draft since 73, which was perfect timing for me because I entered that age in 75, I think. And so by the time Jimmy Carter did his thing in 1980, I remember that. I remember a group of us getting together going,
this is not good.
What does this mean for us? We all sat down and said, okay, they're reinstating the Selective Service. But it didn't mean we're preparing for war. It just meant, hey, we need your information.
It's interesting to me that there are people who are saying, is the draft going to be is it going to be activated, I guess is the way to say it. Are we going to call people up? And if you remember, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was asked that point blank in March. Is a draft, are you going to institute the draft? Are you going to call people up not on a voluntary basis? And she said, it's not the plan right now, but the president keeps his options on the table. So that doesn't, create a lot of confidence necessarily. But right now, there's no mandatory draft, but there is mandatory registration.
Right. So my son's in the military. We've talked about it before. He's a colonel in the United States Air Force. And right now, it seems that the branches of the military are all staffed and perhaps sufficiently staffed by way of voluntary service, by people wanting to engage and be involved in the military. So we haven't needed a draft because our military is robust, let's face it, because of people looking for career options, GI Bill, things like that can help them, especially young men and women. But if it ever got to the point where we didn't have enough naval officers, we didn't have enough Army people, we would say, hey, we need to get the draft going again to get our numbers back up.
I think Pete Hegseth has said before that he thinks we need to rebuild. So I don't know that he's eyeing a draft either. But, the United States, while we have a voluntary military, there are a number of countries where they have mandatory military service. I'm thinking like European countries. If you go like Sweden, right, they're well known. Israel has mandatory military service where everybody is trained.
Yeah, I have a friend who's Swiss, and when he turned 18 or something, he went in the military for a year and a half and bailed out. And you don't even think of those countries as being
right,
having a strong military presence. But I think that it was sometimes people did it as a way of, some countries do it as a way of not only sort of getting that level of expertise, that level of training, but giving young men and women an opportunity to get some training for other things and life skills training.
Well, some of it is, I'm sure, military. So if you think like Sweden and Norway, those Nordic countries, their neighbor, Russia.
Right. Yeah.
So they have planned and they're ready. It's interesting. So we're not saying that the draft is being reinstituted, but you have to sign up. And I was surprised to see what the consequences if you don't. Now, because you're already required to do that, most young men between the ages of 18 and 25, but the consequences of not doing it, it's considered a crime. It can prevent people from receiving state-funded financial aid and employment in numerous states. You may be ineligible for federal employment opportunities or job training, and it can carry a fine of up to $250,000.
Right.
You can still be a conscientious objector, I understand, right?
Right.
But
yeah. I guess I'm learning a lot about this. I didn't appreciate what we're doing. It's limited to men, ages 18 to 25.
Yep.
Most men. I think, like you say, there could be reasons why you don't do that.
Sure.
But yeah, if you're in that age group, you got to sign up and put your name in the selective service in case they need you for something else. Luckily, we're having this conversation right now. Unluckily, I guess I should say, because there's a war going on.
Right.
And anytime there's a war, almost every time there's a war, or the United States engages in some level of conflict, we have to think about what's the strength of our military. Mm-hmm. How many people do we have? Are we sufficiently staffed to do what we need to do? And if not, do we need to reinstate the draft? And young people, when they see, just my own take, when Jimmy Carter did what he did in 1980, I was 23 years old, and we're thinking, okay, I'm still in that age group.
Yeah.
What can happen to me if we go? And we thought we dodged it. That's a bad word to use, but we thought we'd avoided the draft and avoided conflict because it was time in this country we just weren't doing something like that. But,
well, you've aged out now, but
yeah, right. Yeah, I'm safe now.
Look, so you mentioned women are not eligible for the draft right now. However, because other countries have done it, there are U.S. lawmakers. They have tried to attach a provision to this annual defense policy bill to say that women would also be included in draft registration. It's been killed every year so far, but we may get to a point where that actually goes through. So that's another conversation, I guess, for a different day.
I don't come from a military background at all. My wife's my father-in-law was an Air Force pilot, and my son is an Air Force doctor. And I would say that they both were treated very well, and they served honorably. My son continues to, and I wouldn't, if somebody asked me, hey, your boy's in the military, what do you think? I wouldn't discourage it. I really wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, he could be deployed tomorrow, and I could regret every word I'm saying right now. But so far, I mean, he's been to South Korea, he's been to Afghanistan, he's been to some rough areas as a doctor. But boy, he got an incredible education, both at the military academy. He got incredible education in medical school. He got he got further education at a college. I mean, the military's been good to him.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think he's ready to get out.
Well, I come from a military family. So my dad was career Air Force, and I have two brothers that went to the Air Force Academy. And in any case, and I have a son-in-law, as you know, that we talked about yesterday, just the impact of them. So my husband's not eligible for the draft, but my sons and sons-in-law are. And I guess there's a different perspective, right? So it used to be a lot more common to have military family members,
right.
And now it's a lot less common. Our military has shrunk, and there's not as many people serving. And of course, like you mentioned, they are doing it voluntarily.
And a lot of our political leaders have risen in that respect because of service to the military. People that have served honorably in certain.
And I was going to say, our political leaders, most of them have never served.
Right, I know. This day and age, but it's a different time.
Yeah. Well, I hope it stays a different time. So when we come back, we're going to have some fun facts of the day and your closing arguments. So stay with us over this break.
Most financial advisors only manage your money. They refer you out for taxes. They refer you out for estate planning. They refer you out when things get complicated. Did they really vet that person? Or did they meet once, exchange business cards, and call it a partnership? A referral isn't accountability. It's a handoff. When your investments, taxes, and estate plan are built separately, gaps happen, and those can cost money. At Trajan, we didn't build a referral network. We built a family office for all. Wealth, tax, estate. One team delivering coordinated planning, once reserved for the ultra-wealthy. If you want real coordination and not just introductions, call Trajan Wealth today. Call Trajan today at 801-207-9900. That's 801-207-9900. 801-207-9900. That's 801-207-9900.
Advisory services through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Other services through Trajan Estate and Trajan Tax. Additional disclosures at TrajanWealth.com.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 18 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 30, 60, or 90 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com/contests.
When you need a new water heater, you need it right now.
Yep, can't wait on that.
When you need a new furnace or a new air conditioner come the summertime, you need it right now. So Superior Water and Air has a wonderful program where they can help you with financing. If you need it, get it today and pay it off when you get your tax refund or just over time.
And that's one of the great things is they have multiple financing options. It's not just one, okay, you've got to do it this way. It's, you can wait till just after your tax refund. Well, what if you need no payments until later in the year?
Yeah.
They can work with you like that because, look, they want to help you get you back on your feet with the thing that doesn't work that you got to use.
Yeah.
And they'll just work with your situation. What a great way to do it.
I loved introducing you to my friends at Superior because they're just great people. And when you invite somebody into your home, you want to feel good about them.
Yeah, and they're so customer-centric. That was what really impressed me was they wanted to work with me and my family, whatever needs we might have.
Right. They want your home to be safe and clean. Superior Water and Air. Here's the number, 801-872-8483, or go to superiorwaterandair.com.
Here's a tale of Becky. Didn't know what to do with new meds prescribed and no real cost clue.
She squinted at prices, that can't be right. Then tapped GoodRx and saw the light.
She could get a deal. Book telehealth if she feels.
Learn about those meds without any stress. That one little app does all the rest. Even my horse downloaded it. Dang, it saved time and money on prescriptions.
Check GoodRx. GoodRx is not insurance.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
When American troops withdrew from Afghanistan in 2021, thousands of evacuees fled to the U.S. for protection. Many Americans welcomed their new neighbors.
For the last week, the governor tells me his office has been getting calls nonstop with Utahns wanting to help.
When we saw the pictures and the videos coming out of Afghanistan, we prayed to be able to help them.
But then, what happened? Listen to Stranger Becomes Neighbor, wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. The Guadalupe Center in Salt Lake City helps families succeed by providing education, mentoring, and support services. From early childhood programs to adult learning, they provide tools and opportunities to help Utahns thrive. Development Director Jennifer Holmberg joins us with more.
At Guadalupe Center, our mission is transforming lives through education. We believe education is one of the most powerful tools for breaking cycles of poverty and opening doors to opportunity. Each year, we serve more than 1,000 children, youth, and adults through free, high-quality educational programs and wraparound family supports. Our Early Learning Center provides preschool and kindergarten readiness for children from birth to age 5, helping our young learners build the language, social, and cognitive skills needed for lifelong success. Our K-6 elementary school offers a supportive, student-centered environment where students develop strong academics, confidence, and a love of learning. Our adult education program helps parents and community members strengthen English skills and prepare for better employment opportunities. For 60 years, Guadalupe Center has been a trusted partner for families seeking stability, education, and opportunity. By investing in children and families today, we're helping build a stronger, more vibrant Utah for generations to come.
By uplifting families and fostering community connections, the Guadalupe Center strengthens Utah. Learn more at guadalupeutah.org. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Inside Sources.
Well, we reached that time in the show again, and it was nice to have that hour when we could talk about the war and the economy. Yesterday, we enjoyed that hour when we talked about the war and how it affects people and families. And just having guests in the studio and having people that can talk to us about that, I just thought it was really interesting and helpful. And I hope our listeners did too. I mean, I really hope that you enjoyed that hour just to learn about things, how the big picture is when you have something like this going on in your community.
Yeah. So today is the 9th. Which means it's 10 months since we started working together.
Happy anniversary.
I know, right? It goes fast.
Cool. It's gone quickly. It's been 10 months. We'll have our year anniversary pretty soon because we started June 9th.
So I have to tell you something funny. So yesterday I was scrolling back all the way through back to our very first shows in June of last year. Guess what we were talking about?
I don't remember at all.
Iran, Israel, and the United States.
You're kidding.
At war. So I'm not kidding. And President Trump said in June of 2025 that the skies over Iran were under the control of the United States, that we had made great progress, and that Iran's military and nuclear capabilities were on the outs. And then if you remember in October, then they were the nuclear capabilities were on the outs again, like we bombed them all. It's like, oh, all things old are new again.
We didn't just bomb them. We obliterated them.
Right, exactly.
And we obliterated them again.
And then again.
Until next time.
Okay. So today is National Winston Churchill Day. So you might be curious because Winston Churchill wasn't an American. Well, except for on April 9th, on this day in 1963, President JFK, President Kennedy, made him an honorary citizen of the United States. He was still alive.
Was he still alive?
Winston Churchill died in 1965, so he was still alive, and he was made an honorary citizen of the United States.
But there's a personality a little bit like our own Benjamin Franklin, who was like, he
love him or hate him.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, larger than life.
Yeah,
so much going on. Such a genius, but kind of a mad scientist at the same time. Mad genius.
He was really inspirational to Great Britain, the UK during World War II, right? And so you remember some of his speeches, never, never, never give up, right? And we will fight on the beaches. I mean, that was his statement, and he was really inspirational, I think, for the people in England. He also had this, which I thought was really interesting. He changed political parties during his lifetime. And he said this: some men change their party for the sake of their principles, others their principles for the sake of their party.
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting.
He was a great world leader and has lived throughout history as a great world leader. I mean, so many people we've seen fallen from grace after something comes up or we learn something about them, but he's been he's withstood the test of time.
I have a couple of other fun facts. This one is less fun. This is in 1865. The Civil War ended, but the Black Hawk Indian War began in Utah, and it was the longest, most destructive conflict between pioneer immigrants and the Native Americans in Utah history.
I don't even remember that at all. It was in Utah?
It started, yeah, absolutely. It was in Utah. It started in 1865. Tensions had been mounting for a long time, but they really exploded on this day in 1865.
Why is it that I don't remember the Black Hawk Indian tribe being in Utah?
Well, maybe because we killed them all.
Probably. You think about the Utes and the Navajos and the Paiutes and the Goshutes, but you don't think about. I've never
the
been
Blackhawks.
aware of that. Yeah.
Yep. So also on this day, I thought this was really funny. In 1866, Ulysses S. Grant was arrested for speeding in his horse-drawn buggy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he was the first person to get a traffic ticket.
No, cars weren't even invented yet.
Radar wasn't either. How do they know he was speeding?
I don't know. Maybe he
what
ran
is
over
speeding
somebody.
when you're in a buggy?
That's a good question.
Splashing water on the people.
Okay. So in 1945, if you remember the name Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he was an anti-Nazi theologian. He really, he was so unafraid in taking strong stances against the Nazi regime. I mean, and against people who were turning a blind eye to what was happening. I mean, he just called people out. And he was hung on this day in 1945. It was just days before the Americans came in and liberated the POW camp at Flossenburg. But he was consistent to the end, up to the end. And he remains an inspirational figure. And then I have one more.
Okay.
In 1959, we've been talking about this a lot, NASA introduced America's first astronaut on April 9th, 1959.
Meaning?
That these are our guys that are going to go to the moon. 1959.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, it was also interesting to spend some time with Shane Stewart today, and I'll tell you why it got to me. Because we were talking about something that is, maybe I'm going to digress a little bit, but talking about the economy and what he tells people, what he is focusing on when you deal with something like we're dealing right now, war, tariffs, the economy. And what he said was that I've heard this from several financial geniuses in the past, sort of stay the course, stay the course, stay the course. And I thought about my wife saying, I'm going to call my financial planner, I'm going to get all my money out of the stock market, I'm going to put all in CDs, I'm going to do this and that, and I'm going to tell her tonight, stay the course. But I also think that applies on a larger picture right now, because we're talking, just since we started this show, should we get out of NATO? What's going to happen with respect to our relations with other countries? What about agencies within our own government that have been displaced and set aside? And I tell people this who are doomsdayers, thinking that we're changing in a direction that maybe we shouldn't go. And some people think we're changing in a very good direction. But I would say this, just based on my short 68 years on this planet and in this country, that if you stay the course, America seems to come around. It seems to right itself. And every once in a while you get a Democrat who drives you nuts, or you get a Republican who drives you crazy, or you get a Supreme Court that makes a decision that you're going, what are you thinking? But overall, I have tremendous confidence in this country. I have tremendous confidence in the most important document, maybe besides the Bible, that's ever been written, and that is the Constitution of the United States of America. And I say that because when it comes to where we're going and what we're doing, stay the course. Give it a chance. Give it a try. Know that we have 3 branches of government. You may not think that right now. You may feel like one is overpowering the others, but it's, at the end of the day, I have confidence that we're going to be just fine in this country. And don't take your money. Don't I mean, I'm not giving anybody financial advice because that's not my world. But know that the system works. We saw a case today in Ogden, a woman charged with murder. I mean, the criminal justice system is continuing to work. The courts are continuing to work. The Utah legislature just ended. They did a great job. Let's face it. Whatever party you're on, you look at what they did, what they accomplished, and even like Mike Kennedy talking about Utah's laws should be national. We're at a good time. We're at a good time in this country. We're at a good time in this state. Stay the course. Don't worry about what's going on.
That's a little hard for me, I have to admit.
I know.
I can understand the stay the course, right? And steady the ship and stay the course. I guess I also look at things and I am worried, right? And I'm worried for my kids. I'm worried that my sons might be called up, that my son-in-law might have to go to fight. So it's good advice to stay the course financially and to have hope in America. I agree with all of those things.
But that doesn't mean you can't peacefully protest. It doesn't mean you can't.
Right, because I think
change the course through the ballot box and do other things. Right. And we do have an election coming up, and maybe things
And I
will
think
change.
we have a responsibility to speak out when we see things that are not going well and to do something about it.
Right. I read, and I'm digressing a little bit, a study that in terms of internationally, our media, our First Amendment in the United States, we're like something like 59th in the world. And I would have thought, how could we